Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the town board work session of Tuesday, November 28th. Can I please have a motion to open the work session?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, welcome, everyone. First, I'd like to welcome our consultants from Pace Land Use Center and Nexus, who are here to talk about the beginning process of our charrettes. And I know we as a board met last week to discuss a few things, so we did our homework, so I'm anxious to hear from you and to, discuss amongst ourselves, just how to move this forward.
John Fry, for refresher, Anastasia Guadron, Jacqueline Tyler, Tiffany Zazula is in Poughkeepsie tonight, as far as I know, on another mission, but she's sorry she couldn't be here tonight. So we're here to share some updates and have dialogue. And I think this is gonna be fairly concise. And
Yeah.
Jacqueline, you wanna run the show?
I can share screen,
Yeah.
right? Yep, mine, okay.
I'm sorry, just for the sake of audio, they don't need a mic?
We were told no, so.
I think for the ones at the table, no, but maybe people sitting
I can
out
scoot over
there
too.
Well,
might.
I think there's
Okay.
speakers in the,
room can hear you, then we're okay.
Okay.
perfect,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Would it be really weird if I stood, since we have that screen? I'm gonna
No.
feel like I
No,
need to
go ahead.
stand by the
No.
word.
Not at all.
Okay. I feel weird sitting and then it's gonna be
You
there.
can do whatever you
Okay.
like.
I'm waiting for you, Jacqueline.
I know.
I'll sit.
No pressure, no pressure. Out here, teacher.
So I assume you got our notes. We met last week in work session, or town board meeting 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, at our last meeting, I think, to talk about the logo and a few other things, so I assume you got all those notes.
Yep. So, Jacqueline, you can just head over to the next slide. So we'll go through this section, I think, quick and then go over to the logos because we received your feedback today. Jacqueline, if you don't mind. Based on the work session that you guys had, we have the mission statement as is, and if you can go to the next one. And then we did make updates. If you look at the italicized sections, we changed those based on the feedback that we heard in that, which is really stressing.
Should be town-owned land, not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is just this Chappaqua train station, so we've added some based on that feedback, but since we got yours today, we're gonna take that and this and we'll update it based on
Mesh
your
and
guys.
merge.
Yeah, we'll mesh all that together, if you can go to the next one. This was another section that we changed some language based on your comments. But again, I think based on your new comments, this is gonna change, so I feel like we fly through this.
Yeah, these were all made based on, I think it was 2 weeks ago, your
Yeah.
meeting video 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll head into this, so Jacqueline, you can go to the next. So this is what you guys commented on and shared with. And so what we did is we flushed out 2 of these and then we created a couple more. So that way you can see, so what I'm gonna ask is that we hold all, I know this is gonna be so hard, but we hold all comments until I present everything because you're gonna be able to see that we created, I wanna say 4 or 5 versions that have themes and thoughts behind them. And then when you see them all, it's gonna allow you to digest and be like, okay, this is working, this isn't working. And then we'll go back to the beginning and we'll go one by one, but I'll fly through them. Okay.
Yeah, and there's many versions also, just to chime in, not to cut Anastasia off, there's many versions plural, that have not been presented, right? Just like any design or case study, there's a lot of work that goes into developing, and then we pick and choose which ones have been presented. And that's strategic to make sure that people aren't overwhelmed by a huge selection. So we've done that again. This next time, there's between the time that you saw these, there were additional logos created, and then we've selected some individual ones to portray.
Okay, so this is this one, and what I think got lost in the last version was that the idea of this one is that the new is animated. And if you go to the next one, Jacqueline, so this could be like, so this is a video that we would need like real drone footage of the area that we're talking about. But the idea of is that this symbolizes new, moving forward, and inside of the new is where we utilize this space to put creative things. We can put drone footage, we can put interesting animation. And then alongside this, we have a slogan that allows people to really understand that while we're Newcastle, we're really focusing on this project with the land surrounding the train station. So you can go to the next one.
Can I just ask you a question? I know you said hold it, but it's probably gonna cycle through all of them. So when you said it's moving, I mean, it's not moving on print media.
Right, so this is this section here. So each of these that we flushed out, we showed you, so this is not final flyers. This is just so you can see what does this theme look like if it's on print? What does it mean if it's on print? So for this one, the idea is that the new would become like a paper texture to push that kind of theme forward of it being new, starting something with everyone together on a clean piece of paper. And it's really also this branding idea is really set on also the map too. So this is really heavy with showing a map, showing that we're moving forward, that kind of concept. You can go next. And then the idea of like a website would be that if we get drone footage that goes inside the new on social media and anything online, that would be this banner here. It would be moving, it would be the video, whatever video we get of that property. We would put it here and it would be moving. Okay, so that's theme 1. Theme 2 is this filling in idea. So we did a couple of things. So this was the original font, and the comments were that it was a little too childish. So if you go to the next one, we updated it to be this. So the thing that's tricky with this font, with this theory, is that really when you use a thinner font, you lose the concept of this, which is really about playful, fun. We're doing this together. It's meant to be artistic and creative. So if you go to the next one, and I'll show you that in a second. So the idea of this one is if you look on the left, that it goes through different words. Again, these are not like finals or final. This is just ideas of how this could look. Okay, Jacqueline. And then the website again would have, movement happening, and then this there, and we'd have obviously maps and information below that. The idea of this is bringing in fun. Okay, so then just to show that there are trying different fonts, these were different versions. We didn't really think they worked on the ones on the right, but it just shows here. I don't personally think a lot of these work, some of them do, but the font here is just showing you that there's different versions, but when we have a thinner font, we kind of lose the paint strokes and that kind of thought, so we'd have to zoom it out. It would have to be a little bit different than this was originally created.
And this is just a sample as far as the colors.
Yeah.
If this was the selected version, we would work on whatever the colors are. This is just a prototype of something that could be behind there.
The goal for me with this one is that myself or John Fry would watercolor something specifically geared towards the property and I would go behind it, but if we chose the direction to do it. So this is another one. This one really leans on the train station, really putting forward, that's the dot over the I. It's really, really map heavy. It's talking very simple, location driven. So on these new ones, you have one slide each. I didn't flush them out into websites and things. And then this one is more about people leaving their signature. So your signature of the future, of our future. We can have animations of hints, drawing, we can have a signature font, we can do lots of things.
What does it say? Your signature of our future?
Yeah.
Your signature,
Yours-
they're all different things.
Yeah.
just like the prior ones. Signature of the future of the train station, it could be signature of, forgot what they all were, we had them back here,
It's all right.
fill
Yeah.
in,
Makes sense.
right? Fill in,
Yeah,
so
you
it'd
could
be all of
do,
these.
yes, it's
Your
just-
signature on our community,
Mm-hmm.
your signature on our future.
Okay.
So we're still on 2, right?
Three.
On 3.
This is 3, okay.
No,
That's
no,
four.
that's logo 4. So you have 4 logos to choose from. So you have this one, you can go back.
I see.
Then you have this one. And then if you go back up, then you have this
This series.
concept. And then you have concept.
Wait, how is concept 3 different from
Can you go
concept 4?
can you go through them real
2 and
quick?
3? How are 2 and 3 different? I thought you were
Go through
just
them real
showing
quick. One is
different
the new-
fonts.
One is new,
Yeah.
2 is the fill in your future.
Mm-hmm.
3 is incorporating the train station with the train logo and the envision.
Oh, got it.
And it would not be bubbled. It wouldn't be an outline. It would be
Got
the,
Okay.
and 4 is the signature and
Exactly.
So 3 has no animation to it.
It can, I mean, as of right now, it doesn't, but
Okay.
My initial reaction is
Now
that
it's-
this is all very screen heavy. And when we go for the marketing and you're sort of advertising this to the community, I don't know how screen heavy that's going to be. So we're going to,
Meaning in
that,
Print
electric
heavy.
media compared to
well,
print media?
what, your presentation really depends on a screen for the animation. There's a lot of animation, a lot of script writing and all of that. So that depends on the screen. That's what I mean by screen heavy.
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation, and one Anastasia alluded to it, right? How do you balance where we are in society in terms of how much media are you consuming from a screen and how much media are you consuming from print? It's not to suggest one should bear more emphasis or focus than the other. But I do think it's a fair statement that we tend to lean towards digital media more than print media. Again, that's not to dismiss or, create a strata. I think that the more powerful notion will be capturing the messaging through digital media and then successfully transcribing it to print media.
Because I would actually think most of it is going to be print media. That you're gonna have some people who will fill something out online, but for the most part, you're gonna maybe advertise your pop-ups, you're not walking around with a screen. Your pop-ups are gonna be farmer's market or different activities, those are all gonna be maybe posters. Your in-person sessions are gonna be posters and advertising, we might put banners up. I think a lot of it is going to be, other than what we put on Facebook or I think a lot of it's gonna be
Or the meeting website.
even if it's a PDF and people are reading, that's still static.
Yeah, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll get our next visit will be getting into what the development of the pop-ups are. But even in our brainstorm sessions that we've had internally, the pop-ups are including iPads, screens. So they will be seeing this stuff, that there'd be a monitor potentially at these pop-up events. That this stuff would be portrayed, so you would see the visuals from the.
And also, I assume, with the whatever the paper, physical things you're using, your phone, you just click on it and get the
right.
code and you
Right,
go
the
right to your
gonna
QR
phone.
say that.
code, right,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the
Right.
best part. I throw out the paper. I don't want the paper.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Too
do
much
I.
paper.
Like I
I
don't
can
get
get my
paper, it's
QR
all
code and
done
click and I can now
Right.
from the
look, oh, look at,
schools, from wherever, it's all
Yep.
done
yeah, I think
electronically.
QR code is the way to
The
go.
goal really, and when I think about this, the goal really is to get people to engage in all of the sessions. And so the website, in my mind, serves as this transparent space for you guys to say, these are the dates, this is when we want you to come, here's how you engage, like that becomes your voice for this whole process. And so the goal for the print even is to get them to that website. So that way they see all the dates and they go to them. If they have a resource there that lives, so, you know, scanning it with your phone or anything that becomes, so yes, we do need to have print, but the idea is also to drive them to the website, so that way they,
And I
So I
suspect a
think-
QR code
oh,
Right.
is
yeah,
introduced
Right.
here
Oh,
at some
exactly.
point soon,
Yeah.
right?
oh, yeah.
To make that leap between,
Can you
yeah.
imagine in town, you see a little, like, find out what's happening, QR code, what's happening,
Right.
right? Let me go,
Yeah,
I don't
right.
need the paper.
yeah, I
And we're
think-
sensitive to the fact that there are individual, I mean, my father is one. My father says, I don't do the computer. Like, it's a computer, Dad, it's a computer. So we're sensitive to those, but our goal, and we think that we've done it in this flyer as an example, when we were discussing it, the first thing that popped off that screen when I viewed it, was the word new. Right, so when I looked up there, I saw new. I didn't even see Newcastle, I saw new up there immediately. So part of this is going to be that once the graphic is selected, whatever that may be, it's allowing us to incorporate that amongst all media types. So whether it's a still frame like this, or in the website, or in other type of social media.
I think I like the approach of thinking about what's gonna work well digitally and then making sure that we can translate that
Right.
to print and still.
Right.
Cause I think if we start with print, we're not gonna have something as engaging
Yes.
digitally.
Yeah, the print has to attract people though,
Yeah.
to
Agreed.
go onto the website.
Yeah.
So that could be a dedicated project, you know, we can work on what the digital looks like, and that's where we are now.
and the art of it is clearly, so even the left and right image are of studying contrast.
Yeah.
The left side's information dense.
Yeah.
That's
The right side
easy for
is
me.
information calm. So we'll need to find the balance between information rich that's intimidating and doesn't tend to be consumed because it's too much information. And then enough of an engaging image on the right that draws people into the next level.
I
So,
think clear and simple.
so this is my concern, I don't like this logo.
Okay.
The reason is because even though you say it in the text underneath, we're not envisioning Newcastle. Newcastle is large. We're not looking at Millwood, we're not looking at other areas of town. So I don't like that. I much prefer number 2, that's saying, hey, Newcastle, which are the people we wanna get, envision the land around the train station. Like, to me, while it's a subtle difference, I think it's very important because this is not a comprehensive plan we're doing
Well, I'm not
for
sure
all
that,
of Newcastle.
yeah, I'm not sure that I think it's a subtle difference though, actually, because I think whether you're focusing and trying to get someone to immediately react to new, whether they think redesign everything or Newcastle the town versus envision, which is what we want them to do, we'll tell you more about what we want you to envision. Whereas maybe the other one that has new may draw too many connotations that we can't control.
I like this because this is exactly what we're asking them to do. We're asking them to envision what they want on town-owned land. And it may be that they want large changes, it may be that they wanna keep it exactly as it is, but that's what we want them to envision and tell us. So
That was the original
to
concept.
me, this is more active.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we liked, we just thought the one that was presented last time was a little too childish looking.
Right, I also prefer
And
this
it was
because
meant
we
to be
don't,
that, by the way.
I actually,
I don't want
liked
people
the
to
I
think-
liked the fun play actually.
yeah, but we also don't want people to think that we want everything to change.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
when you say new,
Yeah.
I think that's a really unclear concept
Yeah.
and we are after envisioning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I get, we completely understand that, that's why this is a range of, what's the philosophical anchor here
Yep.
in terms of the messaging?
Can I ask a question like super detailed about
Sure.
the filling in of this? So the way that this fills in, you described it, but I don't see it being like paint filling in.
Right.
I think what I was actually picturing was like a crayon literally coming.
And that's
we're
right,
gonna do
that's
that.
where it's going to
We're
head.
gonna-
Okay.
that's what I
Yes.
said.
Well, then it should be draw your future instead of
Right.
fill in.
You know, I have a suggestion. I'm not really enamored of the font here.
wanna
And
go to the
I
other
had
fonts?
seen something somewhere else
The
where
top left one I like the better.
where I like the capital letters, but I'd
Oh.
seen a really interesting font that's more like the bottom right, where you had the letters be almost watercolor and the letters blended into each other a little bit.
Yes, that's
Not
the-
outline letters?
They were not outlined, they were just kind
That's
of
the whole thing.
multicolored, or you could choose your colors, but they were multicolored and the letters just,
They were full bleed.
they
That's-
went into each other only a little bit at the edges.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was,
It was
and
blue,
they were
right?
more elongated. Oh, sort of like
Oh,
that,
actually, Jacqueline,
without-
go back to
without the
first.
lines.
So that
That's
full
there.
bleed
And it was
would-
more of a
would-
sophisticated look.
Keep going. Keep going. Did you mean these? What were you talking?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about something completely different
Oh.
that I saw somewhere,
Oh, somewhere else, okay.
else, and I'm trying to
Okay, go back.
describe it to you, but it's almost similar to, can you go back to the previous slide, that new? You see how it's sort of
Yeah, it's
translucent?
Yeah.
right.
So
It doesn't
the
have
the
an outline
letters,
and it's
the
full.
letters were like that, but all different colors. And they kind of blended into each other. In other words, there were no spaces between the letters, but the letters were clearly visible. And it was a really engaging, colorful, and attractive appearance, kind of made your eye go to it.
Each of these, it's not profound, and it's not to suggest everyone's gonna have their own personal opinion.
I mean, it's not an
These are
intellectual
examples of
exercise,
very
this is what
diverse,
just draws someone's eye.
Subtle typeface messaging, right? Some are very rigid and kind of loud, and some are laid back, and some are more fun, and I do think the notion of what I refer to as full bleed, right, non-outline. So there's a subtle, soft messaging embedded in that.
I don't know if it was soft, it was just interesting and it drew the eye, it draws the eye to it.
The tricky thing with that one, which is that if there is no outline, then when it gets filled in, you can't fill it in, you know what I'm saying?
What do you mean by fill
That
in?
seems harder to keep
Like
within
from a
the
crayon
theme
perspective.
of
Just
fill
because
it
there's
in,
no
but it also
form,
seems
no
harder
shape.
to translate to print.
Right. Well,
But we don't have to go in that direction of having
Oh,
to
okay.
color it in, it would just
Yep.
be a static
got it.
image, but if you wanted, well, I don't know, we could think about it, I also like the idea of the moving image through something. But maybe
the
that-
video,
That
Right.
was in the new at
I
the
like the
beginning.
video, but
I
it doesn't necessarily have to be through letters, it could be through something else.
Yeah.
Like instead of having a map of the train station, that map, which I don't think is that attractive to look at. Maybe there could be something around the wording, the word envision, where you see moving images of
Like inside the
the
code.
town inside something else.
But the map's important because people need to understand what
What we're
area
looking
we're
at.
talking about.
Right, so maybe the map
The
could
map-
be more interesting,
Right,
and that way
once-
you could have the images move through the map.
Yeah, the plan is once one of these is selected, the
The map-
graphics of that map will incorporate the theme.
Yeah.
Well,
of
and
whatever's
all of the
occurring.
colors and textures will start to assimilate
Right.
Yeah.
through all of the, however the branding is transcribed. We're just, obviously, and it could buy, we're just trying to get to first base.
Could we
And
try
then we
that,
can-
could we try what I'm
Yeah, if-
suggesting, can you do it right now, or do you need to come back to us?
Oh, no.
No, we gotta do that.
This is, I mean,
if you go-
even the mock-ups of the animation, right, there's an effort in there.
If you go back one, I mean, I like it being colored, sorry, two. Sorry, one more. That one. I like it being colored in. I like envision, fill in our future. I think that's kind of what we're asking people to do. So I really like this with the coloring in. I'm not sure if I want it colored in with a crayon or if you would put the video, I kind of like the videos through it also. And this font is wide enough, the letters that you could probably see it.
Yeah. And maybe putting them, you mean by video of,
Like that you had at the very right.
On the new.
Because
Yeah.
and the kids playing, baseball and
Yeah.
because we wanna know how people want their town. that they live in and that's their community and their home.
Could we see it both ways
Yeah.
then, when you come back with it?
So just to clarify, we have a consensus that this is our compass.
I think that was our consensus last, I know
Yeah,
Jeremy, I don't
I-
think
yeah,
you
I
were
think
here,
so.
but
You know, I'm a connoisseur of these things and, you know,
know that.
I really need some time to think about this over the next month, 3 months maybe. I'm easygoing, I think that's great, I think you did a terrific job.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
did have a consensus
this
on
was our
this one.
consensus last time.
Yeah, I for me, I like using the word envision, having that, you know, the primary thing that catches your eye. But I really, I mean, I don't think everyone agrees with me, but I like the more fun and playful,
I do too, actually.
younger looking version because we're asking people
Like,
honestly be a little bit creative and think outside of what they already know, with some guardrails, obviously.
I like
So
that better.
I'm okay with I actually really liked the crayon idea, but
So we'll put the new in the vault.
News in the vault, yep.
Yeah.
And then some drone footage.
Can I
Try it.
I have some questions about like the drone footage using that, like the pros and the cons, because like it's not a pretty area, you know, it's not like the hills of the town or, you know, the trees in the fall or the spring flowers. It's pavement. Like, are there pros and cons to doing that?
Yeah, I think if it was the image itself and it wasn't screened into segments and areas behind the letters, you're right. I mean, you know, it's not gonna be a romantic image. Let us try it, let us
Okay.
see, I mean, we'll,
Yeah.
and, you know, we can fly the drone and select
Yeah.
better views than others, right?
Yeah.
So we're not a sea of asphalt in one.
But I just want,
think it's important for people to see asphalt.
Well, that's
well,
that's
yeah.
why I said pros and cons,
That's
like
really-
it may be good that people see that and appreciate the opportunity we're missing, so a sea of asphalt while there's no cars in it maybe?
Interesting notion, interesting messaging.
It's the question, it's the reason I was asking the question, if you guys had kind of thought that through about.
Well, it's a contradiction, right? We're talking about having the image being attractive, having people looking at it, and yet
Or
we're talking
running
about
asphalt.
showing how unattractive it is.
I think you might be better off with
cars.
the coloring it in and then
Yeah,
a picture of the map to show
Yeah.
where we're talking
Right.
about.
Or, well, I don't wanna volunteer any, we have both, and depending on the audience.
I mean,
Yeah.
we may still have, well, I shouldn't say may, I'm sure that we still have use for that drone
Right.
imaging with the
Absolutely.
I was
sea
gonna
of
say that
asphalt
would-
and whatever, and the, you know, in other areas that are
Yeah.
more productive, you
Well,
know, we can
right, you
contrast
don't
those.
have to do everything with this one logo. Once you have people there present at the pop-ups or whatever sessions you have, then you can show the contrast.
yeah.
But the point is to attract people there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah, I
And these
think the
may
filling in
shift
is gonna
depending
be
on
cuter.
the event and on the pop-up to a
Mhm.
degree, right? So
Right.
who the audience is, some of this stuff gets some graphics get tailored to that specific, right? So for instance, if we're meeting with the seniors, right, those graphics might be slightly altered from something that's in your face, right? So we have to think about that. Ultimately, the desire is finding the theme and coming to a consensus on a type, which it sounds like it's in this direction.
Yeah.
One of these two. And then I feel like once we have that, then we can press the accelerator to
well,
run.
I just have like some
I'm
clarity
sure
questions,
you have
just so
questions.
I have like my to-do list. So just in terms of edits that you guys wanna see, we're gonna do a version where the letters are kind of closer together in caps.
Without the
I
outline.
really don't like the all caps, cause you got all caps on top too,
Well,
it's a lot of caps.
I'll send around a picture of what I mean. It's difficult to imagine if you can't, if you haven't
Just
seen
a
it.
lot of caps here.
Well, that's the, right,
Then it
so
might swap.
it might swap, like, you know, if we would have to change it based on if that was.
I think if we're going the coloring in, I feel like the lowercase is just, it's more in the theme in my opinion.
It's a little more engaging and not as serious.
Yeah, I like
And
the fun
Well, I
spin.
think I just would like to see it, and I think everybody should get a visual
Yep.
and have a choice.
Can you go ahead again to the one where you had some of the ones in all caps?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
They don't
Right,
work
but
for
that's
nearly as
not,
much.
that's not what it,
No.
that's not really what I'm talking about, so.
It doesn't
I'll
work
send
with
you
the
something.
the
Go to
one
the
on the right
last
in the
one.
middle.
Yeah.
That was quasi
I'll send you
all
something.
caps. That had some diversity, I mean, it's in theory all caps, but it has scale diversity in the letters.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if that translates beyond this typeface.
I think if you wanna, I would suggest just circulate the
Yeah, and then
the
I
image
can,
and then we can.
I can create
But
something.
do both.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
yes.
But could you go back one again?
which
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, this with all the 6 envisions.
This one.
Yeah. And so the one on the right side in the middle, so I actually think that that's kind of a fun looking caps version.
It's
But
just
it
so
doesn't
thin.
work?
Yeah,
It's
it's
thin.
so thin, you know, you lose what you're looking at when it's really thin and it just kinda looks like blobs, you know, you
Okay.
miss the, and when we do the coloring in, you have to remember, we did test it, you know, a paintbrushes or a crayon or whatever, in my mind it's a paintbrush, but a paintbrush is thick, so it's not gonna fit, you know, you wanna see that it's a paintbrush.
So you wanna see strokes and
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, you
Okay.
wanna, you're gonna, you know,
But I don't know if there's something else kind of along those lines where it has, it's still all caps, but it
Playful.
has a little bit more character from letter to letter instead of just looking like a block like on the bottom.
I don't know, I feel like caps are kind of shouty. I don't, I feel like, you know, you're yelling at somebody
Yeah.
here instead of it being more creative with it all lowercase.
When you get
but-
the all cap email, like that's
Right.
what.
Oh, I mean, actually, that's a really good point, right?
No,
But-
it's really not, I found it, so.
oh, good, that's super helpful.
Got agility.
That rainbow one?
Well, you could choose your colors.
See, I
But it
find that
blends.
super hard to read.
Yeah,
This
I
looks
agree.
like an M,
Same.
this is
Yeah, I have a
a,
hard time reading that.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
Alright,
should
cause
still
I
show
think
it
that
to
the
them.
colors
I wanna
can.
see
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna
see
see
it.
You
It's
can
hard-
do,
it is
you
hard
can
to
do a lot
read.
with the colors,
It's
here we
hard to
go.
read.
I find it, the letters were all blending into each
Yeah.
other. It looked like an
Right.
M, it looked like,
Does it?
Getting
I
it
don't know,
The way it gets, I
I think
think.
it's
It's
pretty
worse.
clear,
I think it's harder.
yeah.
okay.
May I walk?
Yes, you may walk it. You may walk it, I think it would be easy to have a moving image through that.
If you did, I'm worried you might lose the word if you had
Yeah,
that
you
word
might.
with a
You
moving
might.
Yeah.
image.
I think, I mean, reasonable minds can differ, we all have our opinions. I personally like it the way you had it.
With the lowercase letters?
Yeah, the one,
The one back from
Let's go back to it.
not that one, keep going, that one.
because we're
I
different.
like
And
that
I
one.
agree with Holly, I like
Okay.
the kid one.
Or the,
But if
or
I'm
I
not-
will, I will go
whatever,
with
at the
the
or that one,
consensus.
either one.
At the end of the day, it doesn't,
Yeah, like that one to me looks like hand drawn and I like what
Right.
that conveys.
Yeah, that was
Especially
kind
when
of the
you
idea.
take
It
it
was
with
Mhm.
the filling in and.
Yep.
Yeah. The idea behind this one is that it was loose, playful,
Yeah,
anybody
like
can
that.
do it, right? From a toddler
Right,
up to a senior, all generations are included in this. We all, I mean, I don't know about you, but when we go to a restaurant, and unfortunately my kids are getting older, but the youngest one still colors when we go to the restaurant, and we all find ourselves on her mat coloring and, you know, being playful on the mat. So that was kind of the idea behind this, is that everybody is included in this.
I'd like to ask a question. If
My
you can-
color, by
so-
the way.
So there's a difference between this one and the other one that I just wanna see if you, what you guys prefer. So this one originally made is the town of Newcastle is smaller, it's on the left, and you have the 2 dots over the eyes. If you go to the next one, this is,
Sans dots.
yes.
I like the one before personally.
yeah, it's
Really?
totally like it, I like the.
Can you go back again?
Yeah. A, or should we have to go back
Yeah.
one?
Yeah,
Like
two.
like being at the
Or one.
optometrist.
Yeah, that's a winner to me.
I like the dots.
Do you like the dots being filled in, or would you like them to stay colored?
I like them to flash different colors. I'll go along with the majority of it.
I would like them to
I-
read my
I like
mood.
it better in the top, where it's getting filled in along with everything else instead of staying static.
Yeah,
Yep.
Like, see the
Yeah, I
difference?
agree.
Yeah, that,
Good call, Lisa.
okay.
And we
Okay.
still have the fill in your future, right?
yeah,
We
this
can
is-
add that, yes.
I think that,
No, where does the fill in your future?
We'll
our
incorporate
future
that on
go?
back into this.
Under-
So it goes,
underneath.
it would go on the right.
Yeah, go make
It
it
would
back
go
to
on
the
but it would go
original.
underneath.
To the right.
See,
Yeah.
see the bottom left one?
Yeah.
Or how do you
Yeah.
feel in our future?
Yeah, I like it
Okay.
with the three,
I like
the ellipses.
Okay, and then, oh, yes, okay. And then I have another question about color, because what I'd like to do is customize this and have John Fryer or myself actually, just volunteer.
Can't wait.
Like actually watercolor something that would get embedded behind this. And then, you know, we could also have it be stagnant in a print, or it could be, depending on, again, where it is. What are we, there was a lot of color discussion last time, like where do we feel, and I feel like I didn't quite understand what colors you guys love and hate and have attraction to or don't like. Do you feel like these are muted? This obviously wouldn't be it, but like, do you feel these are muted? Do you like more?
What's your color palette?
Yes.
I like the greens and blues,
Mhm.
and I like the less muted.
So something more, more vibrant.
vibrant.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm the one who likes the crayon, so like I'm picturing the box of Crayolas.
I like the greens and blues too. I feel like those are our colors.
Yeah.
But I like the coloring on the right. I like that it's bright and vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a dull blue.
Yeah, like this you mean.
If we could do a combination
Yeah.
of blue and green in that kind of it's sort of luminous.
So I think if we're asking people to be creative, I like more colors than just blue and green.
Yeah.
I like all different colors because people have all different opinions.
Okay, great.
And
That's
I
interesting.
I mean, my dining room is hot pink. I like vibrant.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hot pink
Right.
logo. Just kidding.
But I
So
like
maybe think about-
vibrant, like I like the hot pink actually that's there. I like the yellow, I like the blue
But
and
we
the
have to see what
green.
goes with the
I don't
blue.
like the brown.
I like more of the primary colors, like instead of like I would think of like more like blue, green, red.
Well, it can change,
But that can look
obviously.
babyish,
You know,
though.
that's the point, is that this is flexible and it can
absolutely.
change.
Yeah. Just looking. Yeah.
See, I
Looking
feel
for
more like I
initial.
like more the hot pink, the orange, the blue, the green, the yellow, less brown,
That's it.
less
What's
pastels.
the color for 2024? Wait a minute, what is
That's-
the new Benjamin
Isn't it
raspberry
purple?
sherbet or
We're gonna
something?
set that
Yes.
color tone.
Right. It's
always
gonna be the
changing.
Newcastle color.
Oh, heavens.
I'm a vibrant color person, but like I like the
I
orange,
think
the
it
hot
would be
pink,
good-
yellow.
It would be good to
Orange
have
are the
accent
groupie
colors, you know, go
Blue and
through,
Blue and
so-
Yeah.
cycle through.
Yeah.
Like a
Mhm.
royal
Okay.
blue.
Well,
I just
when
think
the-
primary colors can look like very kindergarten.
Yeah.
When the evolution continues, right, and that includes digital media transcribing to print media, there's definitely gonna be opportunities to have different palettes and a range of moods and messaging.
And I don't think we've
Uh-huh.
I don't think we've envisioned any of the, you know, we've talked about this internally in the office, that the ideas of coloring these, they won't be monotoned, right? So there's going to, even if you're using the greens and blues, there's gonna be similar to what you were suggesting.
Well,
probably
I
too
think
many.
it would be good to have pops of color, like I
Right.
think it should be
Correct.
colorful.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So there'll be an
I just got an
assortment
idea.
within the word.
I just got an idea that sorry.
Cause I'm gonna close this portion of
Oh
the
no,
discussion,
sorry, I
so
just got an idea.
We're gonna get to the next portion.
Okay, but can you go back to the envision, the big
Which one?
This one, this one. So the other great thing that we could do too to create like engagement is if we can create them without colors in them and send them home in the PTA backpacks and have the kids color it in. And they can snap them on social media and then we can put like kids in the community or people who have colored it when they, you know, we could put those colors behind it too. Like there could be a whole engagement.
It's a good idea.
That
It's
should be
never
on-
gonna happen.
Okay.
It should be on the men, it should be on the menus in the, on the
Yeah.
kid menus in the restaurant.
It could be a menu like in a
Next
restaurant.
work session, please
Yeah.
bring us some crayons or
Yeah.
markers
Yeah,
and
I
give
think
us the
this is
grades.
Done.
We'll do
Okay,
it through the art center, we'll
Okay.
do it through
Yeah.
our things, the
And we can
backpacks
make
or
it
whatever.
those
Yeah, we
flyers.
can't
An
get
art
stuff-
class,
We can't get
Yeah,
stuff
no,
into
no,
the
but we have
backpacks.
art, lots of art center classes, community center classes, sure, that will do.
We're gonna put the kids to work, right?
I think it's working, you know what, we could display them, we got that staircase coming up from second floor, first floor, right underneath.
Well, that's
where
good marketing too.
Right, that's, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? If the kids are starting to brand this, the parents are gonna want to get involved because the kids are involved and they're excited about it, so it's gonna attract the entire community.
So I
The McDonald's Happy Meal concept, right?
Exactly.
so I just
You have another question?
no, I don't have another question. I have next step
Yep.
like
Mhm.
so I think in order to meet our goal, to come back on the 12th with everything, I think what needs to happen is we need to edit these and then send them to you guys to circulate and vote before we get here. Does that feel?
Is that possible?
I don't,
I mean, we have a meeting next week, so if you
Okay.
can get things to us, we can talk about it at our meeting next Tuesday, so
Yeah.
on the 5th or 6th,
Cause if
whatever
I
it
could
is.
get the, like, say, it sounds like there are 3 or 4 versions of this with, and then we can go from there, and then there could be like a final vote.
So if we can have it by like the 3rd, we can then have a couple days to look at it and talk about it at our meeting on the 5th.
Yeah, because then that would give
Hmm?
more time to be able to
From a working
have a
meeting.
full, like,
Yep.
to build the website and everything to,
Okay,
by the 12th, yeah.
sounds good.
Okay, do we wanna go through?
Well, I wanna share some thoughts. And if we go back to the dual image of the inferred print media that contained the map,
Going
Going
back.
the wrong way.
Yeah.
the site plans. So soon, right, we're going to start talking about in more depth. I hesitate calling it the academic side of this, but the guide and the guide rails notion, right? And how how our messaging guides, but sets up the guide rails. And in this, we've talked about, where's the launch point for that beyond the obvious site graphic, and we'll refine that so that it's makes everyone warm and fuzzy. For example, and this was the example of information rich, information lean, do as a guide rail and as a guide, do we start to say this is all about 23 acres that the community owns in and around the train station. And somehow that's all it's about, right? It's not about solving global world problems. And I think we have, one of the clever, at some point we have to do that, right? And I'm not sure we're there yet, but that's gonna be a very important element here. And we gotta get there, right? We gotta start getting to those,
Just so you know, it's not all parking lot though.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the challenge in trying to find words like, originally it was like, oh, fill in the parking lot, fill in the greenery.
I'm
Just the
sorry,
land.
so,
Can't really, yeah,
the blank.
Are we including the rec field?
Well, I think I wanna include, I don't think anyone wants to develop on it, but if people want a turf field, if they wanna see, I mean, it's still land that someone may say, can you put, I don't know,
I
a
think it should- I think it should
goalpost
be
in the
included.
outfield, can you
I mean,
restripe it?
I mean, some people do want to see a
Well,
turf
that-
field, so,
well, that
I
wouldn't
mean,
be changed, we just
Yeah.
built it.
I don't think anyone
I
wants
know,
to
but
lose the
it's
field.
adjacent
No.
As
to
the
that,
field.
so I think maybe
You
the
won't
road just
know
needs to be.
until you hear from the community either.
Well, that's right, we wanna hear from
But
them,
it's still not, even if you didn't include it, it's still not all parking lot, there's this building, for instance.
No, I understand, I'm just like thinking just out loud, so it's not all parking lot, but I think that's what most people think about that in town hall. So the playground, the basketball court, would that be up for grabs?
Well, nothing's up for grabs,
No, no,
we're
I
just
understand,
saying,
but
what do you
up
wanna
for
do? We may,
Discussion.
just discussion, this is all the land
Okay.
possible, I don't think anyone's gonna say, I wanna rip up the basketball court. But
No, but they may ask for something else that makes that inevitable. So I think we
Well-
need to understand,
And
just
that's
finish
fine,
talking?
Sure.
yeah,
Um,
no.
is that I think the point of this is we want people to say, this is all the land, like what are all the things you wanna see? And let them, they're allowed to tell us what they wanna see, then it's gonna be to the town board to decide what's feasible to do and what makes sense, because again, we're not gonna have 100% of the town is gonna say, we want X, right? It's gonna be X through
If
Z
only.
and double A, and so I
And
think
it's also a reminder
we
of what you
wanna
have.
have it open for input, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's up for grabs, like a developer's gonna come in and put a building on top of
I think
it.
putting the rec field in it is good because there's so many people have passionate views one way or another that'll say, they'll come in, they'll say, I wanna do
They'll
this,
get
but I wanna
involved.
protect the rec field. And others will say, that's a waste of space,
Right.
let's do something.
Or I
think
wanna
that may be a
bubble
call-
it.
Yeah,
a
when
call
we,
to
no,
action.
when we had that meeting where that bubble was on the table, we had everybody and their brother show up at that high school.
Yeah, it's a call to action.
It's a
almost.
very
Yeah.
crowd gathering point.
Sure, look, I know a lot of people would love to see that field as turf. And bubbles, and it's actually a way the town can make money, but I think it needs to be on there.
I'm not sure what is the question, whether it's in the image as a field, we're including it in the discussion, I'm not sure what
No,
the
the
question is.
question was, are we including it as area
that's
that
what
we
I'm
would
just
like
curious about.
input on?
Yeah, I don't think 29 acres includes the rec field,
That was
so
my
we'll have
question.
to check that.
Okay, we'll have to
Maybe
check
no
that.
asterisk.
And I think, so
Approximately.
that's,
I can
this
get
is
you
a-
with the number.
this is a very key point, right, suddenly, whether that I wasn't aware of, I don't think we've talked about whether the ball field or other selected elements were or were not a part of this. So this is good dialogue. Clearly, the narrative you just outlined, right, we're gonna be having that conversation. Us and you and all of, a lot.
Well, I mean, why shouldn't it include the rec field? We've already heard feedback from the community.
No, I think it is.
That's
People wanted to-
all,
right.
that's on that side
Yeah.
of the dais.
Yeah, I think it is gonna include the
I
rec
think we
field
should
because
include
I don't think anyone's gonna say they wanna get rid of it, but people may have thoughts as to what they wanna see there. Do they wanna see a walking path around the rec field? Do they want it turfed or bubbled, or do they want seating in the outfield? Like, we wanna hear from people. Or they may say, we don't want the rec field, but nobody's gonna say that, but they might.
Yeah, I think it's hard to have the discussion if we carve out something so specific. I think it's better if
That
we.
that's fine, then we should just
Agreed.
make sure that
Well,
whatever
listen, we'll
acreage
give
we're
you
talking about
numbers and
is consistent with
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I would hate to get tripped up over something like, well, you said 20-something acres and that
Right.
didn't include X, Y, and Z.
No, that's good.
While we're on this general discussion too, I think it looks like there's some areas colored in blue all the way up north.
Yeah, that's the town-owned parking
it's
lot across
town-owned
from
property.
Susan Lawrence.
Well, no,
And
so
then
my
Pocket
question
Park.
is, are we putting those
No.
in scope?
Yeah, I
Yes.
don't think we should
No.
color that because
I
we're not,
think we should.
are we we're not considering
We're
the
doing a
area
charrette for
by-
town-owned property in the Chappaqua Hamlet. Like, I know it keeps saying surrounding the train station, but it's
never
it's
was-
in
But
the
it is-
hamlet.
I'm sorry, but so we're talking about the community center?
We're talking about those parking lots.
But then we're also talking about the community center?
I thought we were talking only
Potentially.
about around the train station.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about the contiguous land
You guys have specified
there.
around the
The
train
train
station
station.
Look,
because
that community
town-owned
center
land surrounding the
should
Chapel
be
Hill train
in,
station.
because frankly, that community center does not meet the needs of our community. So it may be that everyone says we want a new, huge, awesome community center, and then we think the current community center should become X. So I think it should be in there. I think it should be town-owned land in the Chappaqua Hamlet.
Well, I think
Okay.
there's
That's
nothing
what we've
wrong
always
with that. I think
discussed.
that's fine, but I think that's different than what we were talking about before.
'cause right
We
now
were
it
talking
says
about
future of land
only
surrounding
around the
train
train
station.
station.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
didn't
so
think
I
it
have no
was.
objection to,
I
to
thought the whole
expanding it.
hamlet is around the train station.
no,
there's
we were
always
talking
town-owned
about
land
surrounding.
Well, I thought it was
surrounding the
all
train
those
station.
colored in areas.
It wasn't.
Yeah, no.
So-
From day one,
So
'cause
so
I
this
I
is,
wrote
I
all
think it
that
should
so
be.
down.
this is different now.
I think it should be. No, I think it should be on, not off.
Okay, well, somehow we're gonna have to come to a consensus on this,
Yes, you are.
or a decision.
Well, and I
point.
don't think we need, so we don't need that, I don't think.
You don't-
Before
For
we go to
us-
print, but we've got a
You
long
don't need
way
it
to
yet.
go.
Right, we wouldn't even need it for the next meeting,
But just
right?
as
But-
we're having that conversation, I again wanna leave everything open,
Yeah.
and my kind of example that says we wanna build an awesome community center, so maybe we can do something else with the current community center, I think that should be on the table for people to discuss. And that parking lot across from Susan Lawrence, maybe there should be a parking garage there, maybe there should be something else there. I think all of that should be open to discussion.
So that's
The
going
only
into
parking lot I thought we
North
weren't
Greeley.
including was the one obviously behind, that's kind of partially owned by the school and partially owned by merchants, behind like Squires, which is not on the, it's not colored in.
Yeah, I actually had thought that we were just talking about the contiguous land around the
Oh, I didn't.
train station.
That's what I
That's what I thought.
So
Oh,
I
I
think
thought it was all
that now if we go into, let's say, the parking lot across from Susan Lawrence, now we're at North Greeley.
And then
And that's a different neighborhood. And so I think that's addressing a whole other area that again is kind of dependent on what else is going on in that area. So we have 50 North Greeley going up. And you know, that's a different neighborhood from the train station, even though it's town-owned land.
I respectfully disagree. I actually think we can't do a charrette on North Greeley because it's all privately owned land. I can't tell the owner of Susan Lawrence, I want you to put a pool here, because he could say, that's lovely, I don't care, it's a waste of town money.
I think that's
But-
mixing up
But
concepts.
I do think we have the opportunity, we're doing this charrette process, it's gonna cost us a lot of money to do. I think we have the opportunity, let's discuss the publicly owned property in the Chappaqua Hamlet. We don't wanna spend money to do it again. I think, why are we not including it? Again, it's gonna be the town board's decision after the charrette process is done to
Visioning.
decide what they wanna do. This is just visioning.
It's
For
visioning,
all the
it's
ta-
not a
okay, it's
charrette.
visioning. It's gonna be the town's board's decision after all the visioning's done to say, you know what, we don't wanna touch that parking lot now. That's up to the town board, but I
There are a lot of
think
restrictions
as
on
you're-
that parking
well,
lot.
right, but I think as you're going through the visioning session, why would we spend money to do it again? We have this giant community engagement session where we're asking all of Newcastle to weigh in on the publicly owned land in the Chappaqua Hamlet. I would personally like to get all that visioning done at once, and then the town board can decide what makes sense to do.
Well, I'm looking at it differently. When I look at North Greeley, I think that if we look at the town-owned land by itself, again, we're addressing North Greeley totally out of context. You know, we approved 50 North Greeley completely out of context of what else is going to happen on North Greeley. And now we would be looking at town-owned land on North Greeley
Which is the one
You know,
thing we have control over.
completely out of context. I think that
I don't know
I
what you're
think that
talking
we're
about by
going-
context.
because there's a whole neighborhood there, and right now we have a building going up with a special permit for 4 stories, but the rest of North Greeley is zoned for 2 stories.
I know, but
And so there's a lot of incongruity there.
can
And
I
now we would be looking at that parking lot in isolation of the rest of the block, of the
it's
rest
not
of
zoned
North
for 2
Greeley.
stories, by the way.
can I
But-
just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
What is
I-
North Greeley zoned,
do the
zone
consultants
for?
need more
It is
from us? Cause
BR.
this feels like a conversation that
3.
may not be valuable for them.
2 stories, 35 feet.
Some are 3.
It was 2 stories.
BRP is 3 stories,
Yeah.
35 feet. That is
Yeah.
BR zoning.
So that's not on North Greeley, 2 stories.
Okay.
North Greeley is 2 stories.
My view, and you're right, it doesn't need to be for you guys now, we need to
Right.
discuss this and
Enjoying it.
finalize. We're gonna discuss this and finalize it next week at
Okay.
our meeting. Okay.
And then we can make any
Are
adjustments
we
as
talking about the narrative now?
Well,
don't-
there's
because
one,
I had
there's
real
one aspect I
issues
think
with
you
it.
guys need direction on, and that's the handwriting. Do you guys, the hand doing the writing, does the envision?
That's a good, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So can you go back to the one they chose? Sabrina's saying,
No,
do you,
keep going.
I think she's asking about this
Oh.
that.
Yeah, I think
The
that's,
hand.
no, I think that's
That's-
gone.
Oh, I don't
Yeah, I
like
think
that
it's
at all.
gone.
that was only in tow with this one.
That was the last option.
Yeah, I don't like that at
Yeah, I
all.
And we
think
were
we're-
going with the second option.
Yeah, but I think, but that's an observation in terms of,
Now, how we color in,
yes.
there may be a derivative of
Mhm.
that.
do you
Or
see
a
the
brush.
brush
Oh,
inside?
that could
Right.
be cute,
That's
yeah.
and that's what I've been kind of put
Or
having
one of
in
your
my
hands will
And
select.
different hands.
Yeah, that could be cute.
Different
Yeah, you
age
could do
hands,
kid,
different size
kids,
hands,
you could do
different color
adults, you
hands.
could do
Oh,
brown.
that's a great idea,
Mhm.
Jill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that, kids' hands, adults' hands.
Sketching.
Coloring.
Yeah.
Like more
Mhm.
adult but creative
Yeah.
rather than coloring, you know?
Just like diversity and just
But I like
including
the
everyone.
hands, different hands coloring in different colors into that. Different size hands, different age hands, different
You know, I
color
just
hands.
think that it shouldn't look messy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That is our goal as well.
so one of the things that were also in that deck was this core narrative
So
page.
I think that this is better suited for next time, only because
No, I wanna have a discussion
well
about
then
it.
only because we just saw it today, so yes.
So, well, I just have, maybe we don't need everything specific, words, but I had sort of a global change to this or
Yeah.
thoughts. So the first was that, again, it only has to refer to the town-owned land in the Chappaqua Hamlet. I don't want anyone to think we're looking at Gedney Park or Millwood Park or anywhere else. So, it says essential in shaping Newcastle's future. I think you have to make sure that you're honing in on town-owned land in the Chappaqua Hamlet.
And that comment, it is commented, comment number 1
Yeah.
and 2.
And it's changed in the, cause I heard that, like we heard that last time, so it is changed in what we presented,
Yeah,
like in that.
yeah, no, I saw it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Um,
definitely hear you there.
And then my other, I have specific comments, but my other kind of global, just general comment was I don't really love this goals section because I feel like what this is doing is leading people down a path to a specific outcome where we're saying we wanna talk about infrastructure, we wanna talk about, housing and thriving, and to me, this should be completely open-ended. What do you envision for town? I don't feel that we should be guiding that conversation or channeling it in any direction. I wanna have it completely open, and then we can, then the town board decides what makes sense, but I don't want people to think we're talking about sustainable growth that preserves our heritage, which I don't even know what that means, improving infrastructure, cultivating a thriving, connected town. I feel like those are all kind of buzzwords for development and driving a specific outcome, and I don't think we should have any of that.
So I thought
I
we
think you can just
crossed
say.
that out, did we not? We crossed
voted.
that,
No,
we crossed
Well,
out.
that's
Listen,
based on the
this-
comments
this-
that we gave. So
This-
that, but
They
they
have the
haven't
comments.
seen, they just got them.
This markup, it includes every single comment that everyone had given me. If you look at these two
Right,
front
which is
pages.
fine, it's just I wanna explain what they are.
I understand.
I think we struck all of that.
Could I-
Well,
It's all
no,
right.
nothing was stricken, those were my comments that are incorporated in this document that you're seeing, we didn't discuss it
It's
as a
not only
board.
your comments, my
Well, these
comments
are
are
No,
everybody's
I was talking about
comments.
that one thing that was stricken,
Oh,
no, your comments are here, Ally's comments are here, my comments, so but I wanted to kind of as a global, and cause there's a work session, I'm looking at them, but I'm talking to the
Right.
board too. I liked kind of our mission, empowering the community through inclusive collaboration to shape Chappaqa's town-owned land, implementing resident-driven priorities. I like that, and I think that's it. Why do we need goals? That is our goal,
Can
that's
I-
our mission,
Can I
period.
actually ask a clarifying question? Cause
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're reading this as this is something that's being presented to the community. I was reading this as this was more of an internal brief on how you're going to develop the communications and what your thoughts of our goals for this is, rather than saying to the community, read this and now participate.
Correct.
Right, but I don't want those goals to be broadcast. I don't think we should have these goals, is what I'm
I
saying.
mean, I think the goals are
Aligned with the comprehensive plan.
yeah,
I
I think the
I
goals
think
are-
you're guiding
down.
people, frankly, to another form-based code here. I think that you're guiding people to an outcome, and I think you don't wanna do that. I think my view of it was we were doing an engagement session and a visioning section and letting people tell us what their vision is without telling them what our goals for their vision are.
No,
Well,
I
why
think
don't we
that's-
just, again,
Cause
you
they may
know,
say, we love it exactly as it is and we don't wanna change anything.
why don't we keep it simple here? We have our mission, empower the Newcastle community through inclusive collaboration. I like the word inclusive here because the meaning is that we wanna include everyone in town. We want
Right.
everyone to feel
Yeah,
that they've
nobody
been a
I think
part
had
of
any
it.
comments on that.
No, but I'm just emphasizing it. So
Mhm.
empower the Newcastle community through inclusive collaboration to shape Chappaqa's town-owned land, implementing resident-driven priorities.
Yep.
So
Taking out
I'm looking
the
at
vibrancy.
everything else that's here and seeing whether it's really necessary. I mean, we could say and cultivate a thriving, connected town. There's nothing wrong with that.
I think there could be.
There could be something wrong with a thriving, connected town. I don't think so.
I just don't wanna
Other
guide
than
them at
that-
all. I think
So
it
this
should
is
be
the- this is
completely
the
open. I
balance
think it should just
between
say empower
guide
them
and
through
guide
inclusive
rails.
collaboration to shape Chappaqa's town-owned land, implementing resident-driven priorities, period.
We'll get there.
You
And that's
know,
it.
I think that's fine. I don't have an objection to that. I don't have an objection to cultivating a thriving, connected town. I think it's a good thing to have a connected town. Why wouldn't we want that?
I'm
But I
not
don't
saying we
need-
don't want it, but
I don't
we're
need it to
asking
be here.
residents what they want.
Could,
So I don't wanna
Right.
tell them what they want
Right.
or what
I'm
they
sorry.
should want.
I don't feel like I really got an answer to the question about the purpose and the use for this.
So the idea of this is when we start pumping out all of the social media, this becomes like our little heart pulse. So we look at this and this is where we draw.
To gauge a metric, is whatever this
Yes.
component to the engagement process
Is it
reinforcing and anchored to these
Yeah.
notions.
It makes
Right,
it,
which is the problem, I think.
yeah, makes us move quickly when it comes to, all right, we need, 10 different social media posts, we need the website up, like this allows us to get that content out quickly.
I think all you need is the mission statement and just keep driving toward the mission that we want to empower the whole community and get everyone in the community, hopefully inclusive, to weigh in on what we should do.
I
Period.
like the language at the very end, your voice matters, let's vision together.
Oh, yeah.
I like that there, let's add that after implementing resident-driven priorities. I think that's
I think
that's kind of nice.
my issue was just with the goals. I thought all those goals should come out.
So
But
you
I
don't want
like
any
how
goals?
I liked how
Well,
you
we
can
have a
get
mission.
involved,
Okay.
but again, I would just say join specialized groups, focus on key topics. I don't think we necessarily want to say which one they're gonna be. I don't know if we want education, I wouldn't say that at all. And I liked the whole bottom part, together we shape our future, those 3 bullet points, I liked. How can you get involved? Obviously, we like. I just thought that we shouldn't have the goals. The goal is the mission. Our mission and goal is to empower them to give us their input and envision what they wanna do with this town, period, without guiding them in any direction, without saying it's not meeting infrastructure, so we don't wanna put that out there. No, we want their complete, fulsome, 100% input without any, constraints.
I still have to disagree. I don't know that it is going to produce something we can really act from if we give 0 guardrails at all. And I don't know how you would conduct a visioning process that isn't essentially just brainstorming, which feels a little bit too unactionable.
If Tiffany, I can't speak for Tiffany, but I will try to speak.
The channel.
So this process will be fluid. That's probably not a profound statement, right? And we're gonna learn some patterning early on that will influence the downhill side of this. And it's gonna set some, how high is the guide and how high is the guide rail? And so I don't know that there's an answer to your question, but we'll figure it out, I think, together as this unfolds.
Well, and the process that Tiffany ran during the comprehensive plan process that we did with all those visioning sessions, you know, they started off kind of as brainstorming sessions and then got more focused as the sessions went on because they built on each other.
That's not true.
I thought they
We
did.
asked, there are you're talking about two different processes. The comprehensive plan, community outreach process asks the same three questions at every single comprehensive plan meeting. You're confusing it with the revitalization studies that were done for the Chappaqua Hamlet and the Millwood Hamlet.
No, I'm not confusing anything.
I will tell you, as attending all of those meetings, the same three questions were asked,
What-
Lisa.
what were those
But
questions?
I remember being there and we had
What do you like,
stickies.
what don't you like, and if you don't like something, how do you want it fixed?
Okay, well, that's pretty open, that's brainstorming to me.
Well, that is.
But I remember people putting stickies on things and
Yeah.
ideas on vision boards and all of
those ideas
that.
on vision boards were at the community.
But
meetings
then
for
there
the
were
hamlets.
later ones where we actually went to, okay, this was the visioning board and we went a little deeper into them.
And I will tell you, that was not the outreach for the comprehensive plan. That was for the revitalization studies for the hamlets.
Well, this is probably then gonna be an amalgamation of both because we're gonna look at ideas and then we wanna figure out how we're gonna implement those and what makes more sense and what do most people like. And they're gonna see the trends, Tiffany's gonna see the trends based on what people are saying.
So what are we really arguing about? Whether we have goals or a mission statement? I mean, I think
No, you're
that
just
the two.
talking about the, sorry. go
No,
ahead.
I know, but I think we've kind of lost our train of thought here. So
Well-
we have a mission statement.
Yep,
So what,
I
so
think.
let's talk about the difference between this mission statement and goals. To me, this is a goal as well, and I know that there's a difference between the two. And you know, the labels are neither here nor there. It's really what we want to communicate to people that inspires them to join this process. That's
Well,
really what we're
I
trying to do.
agree with you, and that's why I said before, I think our mission statement is the goal.
Well, and I think originally the goal, so when we first met, part of the discussion surrounding goal was for our informational purposes.
What are your goals?
Right. What do you all want to accomplish with this? Not that that's necessarily going to be what is addressed with the community, but what are you ultimately trying to achieve? And then also understanding, so when somebody walks up and says, Holly, what are your goals for this? It's making sure that everybody is on the same page so that in the end of this, whether the town board is getting approached or we're getting approached at the pop-ups, all of us can say the same thing. So if we're reverting back to saying, okay, well, our goal is to empower the Newcastle community through inclusive collaboration to shape, I think it's just making sure that everybody's on the same page with whatever the ultimate goal is.
Yes, I think the mission statement is the goal.
I mean, my
Because
goal.
we don't know
Are you
what's gonna
suggesting
come
that
from
that
it.
is simple enough? I mean, it seems kind of
I'm saying if that's where the
it's
board
kind of sounds like
decides
a word
to.
salad to me. I mean, it
Because-
doesn't mean much.
Right,
And
I think
there's no
the,
Sorry, say that again?
It's kind of word salad to me. It doesn't mean much. It's too vague. It's too blah. It's too nothing. Give us structure. Give us ideas. Give us concepts. And this is what we can do. And we'll learn what we can do. And that very well may be greater connectivity in some way. But I think we have to, as you said before, have rails and guardrails. This is just too much by itself on an island. Too much word salad. And if you're asked, and this is what we say in response, and everyone says, what the hell does that mean?
Well, and the other thing
so are
is
you saying
perhaps
it's too vague?
That's why you need more structure beyond this. This is sort of the umbrella, if you will, the canopy, if you will.
I'm gonna
I
channel Tiffany
totally
now because I
disagree.
remember
Well,
something
take
she's.
turns.
Yeah, I'm gonna show. She said something to all of us that was in my head when we were creating this, when we were all sitting together, that your, I hope I say this right, no, I'm like, but that there's a difference, that your mission is more of the purpose, right? And the goals are like your direction for what you're hoping to see out of it. And so it's important to have those two distinctions, and that they shouldn't mesh. I remember her saying.
I concur, and
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say,
Yes.
I think this was early September,
September
I'm just
meeting
gonna
that I
share my
was saying.
scribble,
Right.
where we talked about that very item in terms of goals and missions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that's
don't know,
I
I
think
think
this is
that-
guiding people too much.
Can
It's
I just tell
basically
you-
like saying,
Okay.
we wanna know your thoughts on housing.
It's not,
It's
but
not-
Well, I
To
think
me, this
maybe
is
we-
guiding people too much. I don't want to say, this is what we're looking for you to tell us.
Well, I don't
Maybe
want, I
let's
don't want
look
us
for
to
somewhere in
get too
between.
far ahead, can I just say something? I don't wanna get too far ahead of ourselves. I don't know what we said in September, it was too long ago at this point. Right now, I just wanna find out what residents are thinking,
Me too.
you know, I just wanna know.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
That's the only goal.
That's the goal for this exercise.
Then the next goal.
And you know, we could talk about other goals or town board goals, which we will do, you know, we do that every year.
Yep.
And hopefully, we will make the two meld, you know, we'll synthesize what we find out. And you know, we will have our goals that we set every year, and we have the comprehensive plan. But I think that is too much of a bite out of the apple to sort of shoehorn into this one process. We just want people to be attracted to this project. We want them to be engaged, we want to include everyone in the community, we want to include all the stakeholders, as many individuals as possible. And really, I mean, you know, I keep going back to this, I would really like to keep it simple. Because if we start to complicate it, we're going to perhaps alienate some groups who won't understand exactly what we mean by all of these words, you know, as you say, we have a word salad going on, so
I'm using that, but
I
So-
wanna,
leaving here tonight.
So Vicky's
Wanna
saying
keep it
everything
simple.
I agree with too, that I wanna keep it very open, I wanna get the input. I will respectfully disagree that board goals don't necessarily, are not gonna be the same as what we're gonna find here. I think,
no, that's not what I said,
but
okay.
I think that once we get the information from residents, then the board at some point needs to, and you, with your help, synthesize that and then see, well, what makes sense, what then are the priorities of the board based upon all of this community input. And I think that's kind of the next goal, but that's not the goal of, for residents. That's kind of the board's goal later on.
But I don't think we're actually talking about either the board's goals or the resident goals. This is goals through this process. Right, this is all about the process, not the
Yeah.
outcome.
I think I already I think let us take all of this. I think that there's a way as well to generalize the goals, that the words that are on this page that are making some nervous, I think we can collectively come up with
to me,
some
all this
goals.
says is
Okay.
everyone wins a trophy, let's all hug it out, and this just lacks the substance. And I think we need that, my opinion is we need that substance. Where are we going? What is our future? What is that possibility? And it needs to be more than a word salad.
But that's saying the same thing unless you're planning to tell them what you want them to think. Because to say we wanna know what your views are for the town-owned land is kind of the same thing. It says the same thing, you're just using different words for it. Unless we're specifically saying we wanna know, you know, where you wanna go with housing, sustainability, you know, and then you're leading them, what if someone says, I don't want any of that?
But then
And
they can
that's
say- No, they can say that.
okay, but I don't wanna put them down a path that's all we wanna know about.
Well, but I think we also have to consider that we are very, because we're sitting here and all in this room, we're very aware of what's there, what's been discussed, what's possible. There are residents that we wanna hear from that they've maybe come down to this area because they're over in Millwood, maybe like twice since they've lived here. They haven't spent any time thinking about this. We don't wanna miss their voice by leaving it too open-ended and just saying, tell us what you really would like. I want to be able to assist those folks in processing what could be possible to be able to share their thoughts as
Why
well.
would you miss their voice by being more inclusive?
I'm saying it too open-ended could be intimidating to people who don't feel the same connection to this space that we do and the people that we generally will hear from.
Do you guys have enough?
Alright, I think we can
Here-
move on, I think you've gotta get the gist of what we're trying to say and we'll figure it out.
I think you're all pulling
you
in the
please-
same direction on the same
Can
rope.
you
and we'll
please
figure
have
it
that for us for
Okay.
next week also?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so what is our next step? You were gonna have stuff to us for the fifth?
For the third, so that we can have it in time to discuss it on the fifth.
Okay.
But it's a
so-
limited set of
Yes.
refinements, it's
Yeah,
not,
I don't,
right.
yeah, we're not gonna flush out the flyers or anything like that, it's just gonna be the set of logos, so it could, so there could be a vote of this is the logo.
I think we all decided on that in
Oh,
Vision logo too,
but I mean
it's
the
just
coloring.
how you're gonna tinker with it.
Exactly, you're-
Okay.
yes, exactly, you'll have to,
Right,
Logo,
okay, so it's
yeah.
just gonna be variations of logo two.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious, for your timeline and this timeline, is there a reason that would, like, it seems to be like shotgunning super fast, it's like, is this, do you believe this is necessary, do you feel you have to get this fast to move this forward?
Well, we've had a lot of discussion about, you know, at what point do you accelerate and what point do you process and pause, right, for reflection. And I think in regards to the specific logo refinement or brand refinement, we're kind of seizing the moment here. And that's okay. It may feel a little intense, but that, you know, as this process goes, right, there's an ebb and a flow, there always is. And so that's not to suggest, once you get to the branding notion, you know, that there's that next step immediately behind it because it's somehow required, it's not.
Right, so if you're looking at this logo next Tuesday, Tuesday. I think to John Fry's point, everybody's gonna look at it and it may be a moment of reflection, of pause to look at it and say, we need to dissect this and make sure that this is the right one.
And when I say pause, that doesn't mean we're pausing
No.
full stop. That means there's a part of this that's being processed, consumed, and thought about, right? And we're over here working on the next leg of this as that comes along, as the branding catches up.
I mean, I don't think this is moving slow at all, in fact, with all due respect, I think this is moving at a snail's pace. When we initially hired you, aside from the fact you do a good job, again, the whole process was supposed to be completed in 12 weeks, it's been almost that long and we're only here. So to me,
Do I
this is
respond to that or do
Yeah,
we move
very,
on and a half?
very slow, so I
I do wanna
kinda wanna
recognize-
get over this already so we can actually start doing some real work.
Well, you know, in all fairness, it did start off that way, but didn't we have a discussion that the timing was not optimal at some point because the winter was coming up? I mean, I remember that discussion,
It has nothing to do with this
so.
specific initiative, right? And we did talk about municipal processes in general, right? Seasonal influences, absolutely. So all of those dynamics.
I was
come
only
into
quoting
play.
what was in your RFP that you
I
responded
read
to.
the RFP when I heard that you were
Right.
concerned about it.
But to
and
be fair to our consultants, we did have a public discussion about the timing.
Yeah.
We
And
did
then we-
afterward, I mean,
we
it
agreed
changed from what
to-
we approved in there.
At the June
We
meeting
wanna
when
end
we
on
were
a
in
positive note.
I did.
There was no
I-
positive
I'm just
note.
saying, I don't think we're moving that
I
quickly.
just wanna be fair, that we did agree to a different timing.
We
but
did,
not-
we did.
Okay.
We didn't really have a choice,
Thank you
but we
guys
did.
so much.
Thank you.
I was not attacking
Thank
you.
you.
I was not attacking you whatsoever.
And not that, I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job, but I just don't think it's moving.
Thank you very
quickly.
much, that was really very helpful.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
so we will
guys.
see you all
Sure.
soon. And have
Do
more
we see you
thoughts
guys
next
again
week.
in December? Is that, wait,
So are you coming back next week?
not next week.
No,
I think,
that
no,
was not the plan.
no, I think we just deliver them to you guys.
We're gonna share it right.
Because,
Well, can you be present by Zoom, cause you may wanna explain the differences in
okay, I
logos
think,
to us.
yes, yeah, I think just me, I don't, yeah.
Make a break
Okay.
for it.
Oh, you volunteered.
Because, we wanna understand the differences in the
Yeah,
logo if
I think-
ultimately we're gonna make
yeah,
a decision.
I just have to double check, but I'm sure I can make myself available on Zoom.
Okay.
But yes,
John, would it be hard to change the word envision to something else?
Pardon?
I'm
trying
Alright, get out.
really
While you
liked-
Or
can.
Newcastle to North Castle or something?
I like that font I showed you.
Alright, thank you.
you guys so much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, thanks Sabrina.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Alright, next we're gonna move to a chat pack discussion. And I see Lisa here. Thank you for joining.
You wanna come up to the table, Lisa, or you wanna stay back there? That's your call completely.
No, come on up, we can hear you better.
So Rob Dewey has been kind enough to put together a expenditure revenue chart for us from 2016 to 2024. Along with that, you're gonna see that Lisa Tizzo, who's been our theater manager, has put together 2023 rentals to reflect the events and who the sponsor of the events are, so what we do in-house versus friends versus rentals of the facility. Rob, do you wanna go through the chart?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of updated this over the years. The top section of the chart are the capital projects. We have two existing capital projects that are actually well, the roof replacement was just completed and we did borrow some money, about $150,000 in 2018 to do the lighting, some HVAC repairs and some other costs. We've spent 100,000 of that so far, there's still about 50,000 left. And then we've got the project that's upcoming, which is the drainage, the gas line and the parking lot. And I think we've gone out for the engineering RFP on that, so we don't really have costs quite yet for that.
So that's an estimate, the $500,000, but we think it's unfortunately ballpark.
So those three projects alone, total estimated budget be about close to $1.1 million. The bottom portion covers all the operating expenses annually from 2016 when we took over running the chat pack to present day. You'll see a pretty big jump from 21 to 22 when we actually took ownership of the property and began paying the utilities, which we hadn't been paying before, so those are pretty significant.
And there's also a jump when it's not a COVID year.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. And then the very bottom line is just the revenue that has come in over the years, and if you look at the bottom box, we're averaging about $70,000 in expenses presently, and we're bringing in about $26,000 in revenue annually, so.
And
That's
that
kind of the-
doesn't include though, you know, the amount of times that we rent it and don't charge for it, like for town events or you know, Westchester County's coming in for their budget presentation, we're not charging them. So it's not including other times that there are events at the space, but we're not
No,
getting
this is
income for it.
strictly revenue and expense that comes through my office.
Excuse me, and you could see that on Lisa's list, she's very thorough on the last column regarding who the sponsor is. When it's a rental, it indicates rental, otherwise it's Newcastle, Town of Newcastle Parks event or a friends group. Every once in a while, there's a courtesy rental, as you could see, Westchester County Budget Public Meeting.
So year over year, 70-20 roughly split between expenses and revenue. And that doesn't include the infrastructure.
Correct.
So this is useful information to discuss as, you know, next week we have the Friends of the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center coming in and, you know, as we start to think about the future of Chapac, certainly it's a facility that I think we are lucky to have as a town. You know, much like our community center, it's something that we are able to use for town residents, we don't necessarily have surplus income from it, but neither do we from our community center, but it's something that we certainly are able to utilize a lot for town events and for our residents. It's really an amenity. But what we'll think about in the future is, how is this building gonna be run? Certainly the town would always wanna maintain the ability to have rental space because we use it for rain dates for concerts, we use it for certain Town of Newcastle events. But does the town wanna be running a theater? Do we wanna lease it out to another group to run the theater? How is that gonna work? Would it be a triple net lease to somebody? Is it something that the town's gonna be responsible for a certain portion and that lessee will be responsible for the remainder? That's what we need to consider kind of going forward, how it's gonna work. And one entity we really wanna make sure we're involving is the Friends of the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, because they've been really great at trying to make sure the space continues to be utilized, as has our rec department. But I certainly wanna make sure that they're included in the conversation and potentially the solution as well. So I think this is very informative to help us get to where we need to be, but certainly for those, naysayers at home, we're gonna say, oh, well, we lose money on that theater. Yes, but we spend money on other buildings and parks, and they're not necessarily money makers, but they're amenities that we are lucky to be able to provide for our residents.
Right, so I thank you for preparing this for us. I think that we needed this as a basis to have any kind of discussion about Chapac. And so now we can hear from Friends of Chapac, because I'm very interested in how they can help us move it forward. They've been working on it and with it for many, many years now. I'm not sure what the number of years is at this point. So I think they've been an integral part of this, and I would like to make it work with them if that's at all possible. Now, the town doesn't operate all of its areas of operation to be at a profit. We do it for the community. We don't operate our senior center at a profit. So we provide services to our community. So that's so the idea that we wouldn't be making a profit from this is really not that compelling, but what is compelling is that this not be a real drain on town finances. So I think, we've needed this level of clarity for a while now, and it's very helpful to have it. And it's really the only way to move forward. So I'm looking forward to having Friends of Chapac come next week and see what they can provide, to continue the discussion.
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking about this in a few different pieces. Like, one is the ownership of the building and the maintenance, which I don't think it makes, I think it's an asset that we want to keep. But the other pieces I think I have more questions about, which are like the financial side and, are there different ways that could be handled? What does the fundraising pieces look like? Are there other ways to offset things? How much risk are we taking on as a town by operating the facility? And then, what do the ongoing operations look like, and who's running it? Are we kind of right now? I think it's a little bit piecemealed. I'd like to consider, and this is probably something Friends is going to talk to us about, a more centralized operations solution, which I think is a good approach to take.
Yep.
So this is all very helpful, and I honestly didn't realize how much stuff goes on there, so I'm obviously not subscribed to the right newsletters.
You gotta get there.
Well,
Lisa,
I
is
think
there
I
anything
can
yet you wanna
probably
say?
answer your questions better than even the Friends can,
Oh,
because
thanks.
all of this has really grown since the town hired me part-time to manage the Chapac, because I work with Michelle and I work with the Parks Department. And then the other thing that
You're fabulous, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Just wanna put
What
that
I
out there.
work really hard at is the rentals, because that's what we need, is that income coming in. So in the past year now, Westchester County Mental Health has had a big meeting there. They've already booked next year for a big meeting. Planned Parenthood just booked something. Optum Medical Group, which is in the same corporate park as us, just had a big meeting there. Toll Brothers had a meeting there. So now that things are opening up from COVID, and companies are starting now to have meetings. I met with the gentleman from Fidelity, which is right there next to Whole Foods, a couple of weeks ago, just to show him the space. He was from the Scarsdale office, moved up to the Chappaqua office, wasn't really aware of anything, and just wanted to meet and see the space because he drove past it. So I work with Michelle. My whole life I worked in theater until the pandemic. So working with the Friends, they are now a little more comfortable booking things because I'm able to help gear them on, okay, so now we have to get a sound company, we have to do this, we have to do that.
Right, they didn't have that expertise that you
Right,
do.
exactly, because they're lovely, none of them know anything about running a theater or a concert venue. So between now what Michelle and Liz, who's now on the board of the Friends, is doing with that, and look, not everything that they do makes money either, you know, it's just
Well, some of it they do for exposure
exactly.
and then also just because it's a great show they wanna put on.
And we've done things like that singing group from Yale because one of the kids was a
Wiffle
really
Puff.
graduate.
Wiffle.
We did a movie that a really graduate had produced, and you know, we sold tickets to it, you know, and did it break even? Did it make, you know, a couple of dollars? Did it lose money? So there is much more happening there now. I went in there in 2021 with the Westchester Broadway Theater, which is where I always worked. Knew John Finelli forever, who was managing the space. In lieu of pay, he was able to use it for his theater company. And so I started, because we shared an office at Chappaqua Conference Room, you know, I started getting involved with the rentals because, you know, John wasn't doing it. So then when he left and moved to California and Westchester moved out of there, you know, the town brought me on part-time. So I kind of had my feet in there for a little bit before I was actually working for the town. You know, there are a few things that maybe we want to look at, that the contract, the agreement specifically says it can be used for. For example, I've had in the past people who wanted to have
This is
a
for us.
band,
Us. This isn't Friends.
for a party, but the contract kind of says you can't do that. And I understand what the constraints are, the 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., especially now we're gonna have all these neighbors. But we could potentially, whether it's through the Friends or through the town or, you know, look at using it possibly for things that aren't specifically performing arts. At Westchester Broadway Theater, we used to do bar mitzvahs, bas mitzvahs. People, I mean, if we can open it up a little, and I'm not talking about, you know, having alcohol, I'm not, just maybe open it up a little bit in maybe some things like that, I think we can get more rentals, or maybe we're perfectly happy with where we are. I mean, I'm gonna
And
still
that's something
go-
the board can discuss as to
Right.
uses, you know, when we first got the theater, we decided we were not gonna have those type
Right.
of events. And we also decided, which I don't think should ever be changed, that there were gonna be no you know, political or religious
Correct.
events there.
Right.
And I actually
Right.
think that should stay. But that's something certainly the
Right.
town, you know, the problem with a bar mitzvah, for instance, is you have food, it can
Right,
get
but I mean, we
a lot
have
of
done
wear and
food
tear,
there,
We
but-
did have
we
our
have done food there
inauguration
before,
there.
we've done, you know, movie premieres where caterers have come in, I mean, you had that great, you
Yeah.
know, kitchen,
Yeah, I
and
know.
everything.
It's great.
So-
So Michelle, can I ask you a question? So
Lisa.
This is Lisa.
Lisa, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Michelle too. Are you working with Michelle to present to us next week?
I am not working with Michelle because
Okay, so
right
this is
now-
She works for
separate.
us.
So
I know
right-
you
yeah,
work for us, but I just wanna understand your relationship with
right.
Friends of Chapac and how you work with them.
I have a very good relationship with them,
Okay,
but I always make it perfectly clear to them that I work for the town of Newcastle. And my job there, as it is with
right, that I know,
with
right.
every other person that comes in there, whether they're paying rent
The
or
only
not.
reason I'm asking, I know, because they're presenting to us
Right.
next week, so I'm wondering what is the relationship between what you're telling us
I-
here and what they're going to present to us, so
Michelle has
because so
sent
far
me-
everything has been
Michelle
very,
has sent me,
everything has been very piecemeal, so I'm glad to be hearing from you today.
what they've been proposing, and
Mhm.
I'm not even engaging in it because
Right, this was really, Lisa's here and we're having this discussion to educate the board so that we can be more,
Right.
well, you guys can be more educated so that when we have our discussion next week with the Friends group, that base of knowledge is there, and any questions that anyone on the board wanted to ask to Lisa about how the theater, or Rob, about either finances or how the theater functions, we could do that now so that we're educated for next
I
week.
have you sorry, are you done?
Yes.
No, I meant.
Me,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, well, both of you, I guess. This is a question for the two of you. Just as an example, I'm looking at heating oil and I see how much astronomically higher it is at 42,000 this year, 27,000 the year before, and you go back, at its lowest during COVID, obviously it was 9,000, but it's exponentially not double its highest, but it's darn close, and we're not done by the end of the year. My question is there a way you can calculate that usage? Is that the same general usage, it's just the price of heating oil is going up? Or is, how do we work with that number? Because that trajectory is a frightening trajectory. Setting aside oil prices,
So-
It's setting aside COVID.
So it is, and I wouldn't expect it to continue on that trajectory. What it is, Jeremy, is in the beginning when SG owned it and we were leasing it from them for $1, they continued to pay the majority of the utilities for it. So that was also how it was difficult for us to finally budget when we took it over, because we didn't know what those bills were. So built into that, in that last line, is utilities. It's not just heating oil, it's heating oil, it's electric.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Electric is really the big problem, because we weren't paying electric up until through 21 we didn't pay electric. 22 we began paying the electric bill, and that's where we saw a huge increase in that. And that's, the rates have gone up astronomically, as well as the heating oil. The water bill is now ours.
So we should expect it to go up even more with more usage, with the hope that we're also gonna collect some of that back,
Well, I would think so. I mean,
or at least.
we're still, the building is occupied. I don't know, I can't tell you what the thermostat set at or how
well,
often
so
that's
so Jeremy,
changed, but
the building was built in 1986. And it is not the most insulated building in the world. The bathrooms are on exterior walls. We have to keep the building
We can't,
relatively
freeze.
warm,
Yeah.
relatively warm in the winter months. Christmas this past year, the pipes rose in the ceiling and
Oh, yes.
burst. It was Christmas Day.
Yeah, I'm not questioning
No,
Sue,
no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
questioning your.
no. So the only reason I'm telling you that is because we do have to, when it drops below a certain level, and Walter with the town and I are always in contact with each other, and I always confirm with him, like, even a couple of weeks ago, I said, do I have to start going into winter mode with the heat? We have to keep it pretty warm when it's unoccupied during the very freezing months.
So in addition to that question, my other question, like cleaning, well, I'm curious why, if you know, for example, in 22 it was 45,000, but every other year it was significantly less. Even this year it's significantly less.
So that,
I'm trying to understand the future costs because the numbers are so wild.
it's really hard to
It's
know.
hard, what are we looking at here?
It's been difficult to project over that period of time. And if you look at the line that shows cleaning, if you look to the left of it's the actual general GL description, general ledger description, it's building maintenance. So it's not just cleaning, it's a lot of repairs. I can't tell you specifically off the top of my head what that was. That may have been, in what year are you seeing that, 22, was that when we had the flood downstairs?
Okay, the other thing is that with, after COVID, we did heavy duty cleanings after performances and things like that. So we came in and we did COVID cleans, not just vacuuming, but
Right.
every armrest got wiped down and
But
sanitized.
22 could have included the basement
22 would have-
and the lobby,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
December
The
25th.
work that was done to the lobby as well.
And then my last question, and more probably for you, Rob, is when we're talking about the expenses, and you have including capital, you averaging the capital improvement projects, that's where you're coming to that expenses, not just the dollars we're seeing here.
What was that, I'm sorry?
It says total expenses year to date includes capital.
Yeah, so that's, in the average above it doesn't, that's just the operating, but below it, yeah, the total that we spent from 2016 till now on all costs, including capitals, over $1 million as well.
And these projects, the capital budget, the 10072, that's from,
That's total, that includes the new project that we are estimating. Bob Cioli's given us some numbers for that, but until we get an actual engineer's estimate from the engineer that's working on the job, we don't know that yet.
We should be getting that soon.
Alright,
Can I ask a few questions?
sure.
Lisa, so based on your experience being in the theater, performing arts, I don't know the right terminology, so please forgive me for that, but the utilization, like the rentals and the occupancy of the building, how does that compare with kind of like the industry standards?
Well, I mean, the theater is underutilized, but the other thing is there are drawbacks to the space where for performing arts, you can only do so many things because it was never built as a theater. And there's things that the town does not know about the space, like the grid, for example. That being said, it is a great space for concerts, plays, where somebody could come in and rent it for those things. But theater in general, you can hear whatever you wanna hear. Theater has still not come back from COVID. So people are not clamoring to rent the space. I mean, I've gotten two and now I'm trying to figure out how to get this. I've had two rentals for, one was an infomercial, they rented the space, for 10 hours. Those are the kind of things that I'm trying to get. January, February, March, theater in general now does not do well. That's why on Broadway they have all those specials in January. That's why so many shows close at the end of December, because they get the holiday people and then they can't live through January and February. So it's an underutilized space if it was a theater, but it's really a venue that the municipality owns, and we're trying all different ways to get it used, whether it brings in income or it doesn't bring in income.
So what would you say the utilization is then? Of available days, you don't know? Okay.
I mean, it's, for our rentals, the busy times are November, December, April, May, June.
But correct me if I'm wrong, you're not really comparing apples to apples.
Right,
Because
correct.
this is a very distinct venue that
Correct.
isn't gonna be rented with the same utilization rate as a theater or as a meeting space, or
Correct.
as, it's kind of an amalgamation of
Right.
all of it.
Yeah, no, I'm
So-
just trying to get an understanding. This
Correct.
is- If this is for,
I mean, I
Education,
do,
I wanna-
I do think when all is said and done, it will have been used in 2023 more than it's ever been used before. And one of the reasons is the Friends have done more stuff because Liz is now on board, and she used to work for Disney Theatrical in the financial end of it. And Michelle and I work very well together, along with Liz. And we just kind of, it's more collaborative, we're getting more rentals. You know, I reached out to some people who used to rent Westchester Roy Theater for not shows, cause we ran 52 weeks a year, but, you know, we had somebody who rented on Martin Luther King Day, they used to have the rehearsals there. Now, I reached out to them, now they're on Martin Luther King Day doing their rehearsals at Chapac. So
Is there a way that you can quantify the usage for us?
So
Based on number of days and availability? Can you do a chart?
no. I really can't.
Really?
So guys, let's give this another like 5 minutes because
Yeah.
we're really behind with the town board meeting
Yeah.
and then I think if there's other questions, maybe the town board members can email you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Or
but you know,
meet.
Lisa, I would like to see some kind of chart or some kind of graph on the utilization.
Sure.
You know, based on the available amount of times, you know, dates and times where the theater is available and the usage.
Okay.
And to see how that compares.
Okay.
Okay, is that something that would be onerous
No, I can
to
do
do?
that.
Could you do that? Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm interested to know that too. I think it's helpful to know kind of what kind of goals
Now,
are
the
realistic as well.
other thing that, you know, we should also remember is we are now going to have all of these neighbors right there. And we plan on, I mean, I've already spoken with Suzanne, who's the sales manager at Toll Brothers. So now she's getting our flyers, our digital flyers out to the residents who are gonna be living there and we've had, Toll Brothers rented it because they didn't have a community house, you know, there's all that. So we've already had new neighbors come and see the space. And the next time they do it, which they're probably gonna be doing one in January, I wanna have a movie running in the theater, cause that didn't occur to me to do. So hopefully, we're gonna have new audience members also, and, you know, I mean, it's only growing. I understand that it's a, you know, expensive piece of real estate for the town. But, I mean, since I took over in June of 2022, the income's only grown, and I think will continue to grow. Whether it's the friends running it or, you know, somebody else, but
How much, I know you're part-time, how many hours does it take to run it, or is it just kind of
it's
varies
Holly,
by-
you know, it all depends. I, you know, answer emails and phone calls every day. And I usually go to, I mean, unless there's an event, like, you know, when the county was there, I was obviously there for that event. We have the town's Nutcracker this weekend. But I usually try and go Saturday or Sunday, even though somebody from the Parks Department is in the building Monday through Friday. You know, checking it out and making sure everything was okay. But Saturday or Sunday, I usually go for like 3 hours and send out contracts and try and, you know. So, you know, some weeks I work 10 hours, some weeks I might work 35 hours, depending on what's going on.
Okay, so it varies
Yeah,
and
yeah.
based on
Yeah,
on
and,
the
you know,
based on the utilization,
I'm sorry, let me clarify, she never works more than 17.5 hours a week.
I never work more than 17. Right, I'm talking a pay period. That's
No,
right,
please.
because it's 2 weeks.
No,
Yeah,
okay, that's different.
yes, that's
Never-
right.
Never ever works more than
No, I- no,
17.5
no.
hours a week.
Okay.
That would be the
Um,
maximum any part-timer
yes.
could ever work, so there you go.
Exactly.
Just
I
clarify.
would never work more than.
I mean, theoretically, could it be a full-time job if it was used more, or is there kind of like, again, I don't know much about how this type of thing runs.
Could it be, I mean, yes, could it be a full-time job? Yes.
Okay.
Would it make a huge amount of difference? I mean, honestly, just running that, probably not.
Okay. And you said something about like the income and the
And I
expense.
work a full-time job. I mean,
Oh, okay.
you know,
But
I
it would
mean-
depend, if it was rented every single night and
Well,
was like
correct. I mean,
Ridgefield Playhouse, you would need someone there full time.
Correct. When I was there with Westchester, I did a budget on if Westchester Broadway Theater had signed the lease, what our expenses would be having a company in there. So myself as the producer, our account, and look, we did everything on with a very small staff, even when we ran a 500-seat theater. You know, and it was a lot of money.
And do you look at the budget, like P&L, on what you're doing, or is that just all through Rob's office?
Yeah, that's just for me.
Yeah, I mean, for, you know, anything outside of what we spend on a production or potentially, you know, a request that I have to make to the town for the piano being tuned or
Yeah.
Rob does it. I
So
mean, I
let's-
know what the rental income is that I bring in.
Let's move this on because we're an
Yes.
hour behind our town board meeting.
Okay, well, I still
if
have a lot
you-
of questions, so I'll reach out.
Perfect,
Yeah.
why don't you reach out, that would be great.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Jill, do you wanna walk us through just the rest of the administrative items?
Okay. We've got retroactive approval of payment of claims, we've got adoption of minutes from October of 2023, and adoption of the monthly reports from October of 2023. We've got authorization to award the bid for the Millwood Park tennis courts and repair and resurfacing. So that's gonna be Sports Tech, and I believe it's 644,473 all in. We ended up having to use them for the backboard as well. The two lower bidders declined. So, Lino, I know that you were in communication with Ike about that.
Yep.
Next, we've got authorization to attend a conference. This is Rutgers for some of the parks guys to go down and get some training. Next is authorization to purchase tires from Corsi Tire at DPW. It's a $12,265 expenditure. Next is authorization to purchase certain parts for Highway number 5 from GAT 3LE Truck Sales. Again, $13,345 for replacement parts. Next is our authorization to approve the shared services agreement for waste and recycling communications. This is Recycle Right. It is, we signed on with 18 other municipalities, it's part of Sustainable Westchester. They collectively, they apply for a grant that covers the cost of the app, and so it's free to our residents, so this is just the paperwork. Next is authorization to solicit bids for the Bedford Road Pump Station upgrade project. We had hired Woodman and Curran to prepare bid specifications for this upgrade, and now we're ready to release it. Next is authorization to solicit bids for the replacement of water mains. This involves Pine Cliff, Ridge, Meadow, and Aldridge. H2M prepared bid specs in these cases, and we're ready to release these as well. So these are two projects that we're hoping to do in early 2024. Next is the authorization to refund a street opening permit bond, $800 that was posted for driveway repairs. And the last is authorization to approve the 2024 holiday schedule, specifically Juneteenth. In the current contract, Juneteenth is listed as a floating holiday, when we actually created the, when we settled the CSEA agreement several years after we initially started negotiating the CSEA agreement. The Juneteenth has become more accepted as an actual, as a holiday where local municipalities have closed their town halls. So right now, we stand as a minority of maybe 3 in the county that's going to stay open, so
So
we're
now we're
asking
gonna
the board
close.
whether or not we will accept. They will switch it over to a full holiday where town hall will be closed. We need the board's determination, it affects the refuse and recycling schedule for whether or not the recycling center is open or closed on that day. And also, we just need it for our just general holidays for town hall. So with the board's approval, we'll be asking for that as well. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions on any of this? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and can I have a motion to open the town board meeting?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's the same code, right?
Yes.
Okay, so hello, everybody, welcome to the town board meeting of Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. I hope everybody had a very, very happy Thanksgiving. We're just gonna start, Jill, do you have any announcements?
Just real briefly, the Gedney, the gate to the rear of Gedney Park is gonna close on this Friday for the season. It will reopen again in the spring. I just got an update on the Millwood Playground installation. It's taking longer than expected.
Yes.
Disappointing but unsurprising. So they're still in the midst of it. We're certainly hoping by mid-December that the playground is fully installed, but we'll keep everybody posted.
And does that include the swings by mid-December?
No, the swings are gonna be in the spring. And actually, just a quick shout out to Diane Bernstein, who is going to be inducted into the Senior Hall of Fame later this week. So congratulations to Diane.
That's great. Congrats. Can you send that to me?
Congratulations.
Just so I remember. Sorry, I'm just writing a note. Okay, so now we're just gonna move to the supervisor's report. A few quick things. Tomorrow night, please join the Town of Newcastle Holocaust and Human Rights Committee for the 4th Annual Human Rights Day program. That's gonna be from 7 to 8 p.m. at Chapac. Human rights activist David Harris, who's very well known in this area, will talk about his experience in the Soviet Union in the early 1980s and how he helped refuseniks there find freedom. So that should be a great event. That's tomorrow night. Also this Friday is Wine Around Town from 5 to 8 p.m., rain or shine. So I hope everyone will come. Make sure to support our local merchants, shop local this holiday season. And also, even if you currently receive Code Reds, we are navigating to a new system, Civic Ready. You have to sign up on this new system in order to continue to receive emergency and other types of notifications. So please make sure to do that. How to do that will be in the town newsletter tomorrow. And it's been there this past couple weeks, so please make sure that you do that. In terms of our community corner, other than Diane Bernstein, I also wanted to congratulate the Horace Greeley High School Debate Club for winning first place overall at the Applied Technology Invitational Debate Tournament. Individual congratulations to Nate Goldberg, who won first place as an individual win, Jonah Herman, who was the 7th place individual, and the 3rd place team of Jonah Herman, Nate Goldberg, and Zach Nadan. So congratulations to them. And also happy birthday to Lynn Lambert. All right, so now we're gonna move to public comment, new business. Okay, seeing no one in the audience, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in public comment or new business?
No hands are raised.
Okay, great. So then we are gonna move right to a public hearing on our budget for 2024. Can I please have a motion to open that public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So our esteemed and incredible town controller, Rob Deary, is here to present the 2024 budget. And then to the extent anyone either in here or online has comments or questions, concerns, we will be happy to hear those. So take it away, Rob.
Thank you Supervisor Katz, your 10th and I guess final
Yeah.
budget hearing, and welcome to everyone else. Martin, thank you for being the constant. You've probably been to all of them too. Okay, so tonight we present the 2024 budget. Everybody in the room is pretty familiar with the budget timeline, but we do generally start mid-July and it wraps up on December 12th with the adoption of the final budget. In between all that, our meetings with the department heads and the town administrator, as well as myself, And then each department head has an opportunity to speak to the town board and present their budgets. Okay, the tax cap, we're now in the 13th year of the tax cap. I've had the pleasure of every single budget I've ever prepared has been under the tax cap. I've had that restraint, but I've also been able to comply with it. Tax cap for everybody's, for a reminder to everyone, it's the lesser of 2% of the rate of inflation. Unfortunately, the rate of inflation was a bit higher than 2%, but that's all we get for 2024. Also factored into the equation is the tax-based growth factor, and unfortunately for the first time ever, ours was absolutely flat. So we didn't get a bump from that at all for next year. Based on the formula and small amount of prior year rollover, we could have increased the levy by 496,000. We actually used 439,000, and we're about 56,000 under the cap. Just for reference, in 2023, we had 846,000, so close to double what we had this year. Okay, just walking through the calculation again. We take 2023's actual levy, it's the middle column. We take the total levy, which was 23,616. We add that growth factor, of which there was none this year. The 2% on top of that, and the carryover from 2023, and that gives us our total tax levy limit of 24,112,000. And as I just mentioned, we used 24,056,000, so we've got about 56,000 under the cap. The total increase on the tax levy was 1.86%. There were a few budgetary challenges this year, along with having a smaller than usual levy increase. We had a few things that we had to fit in the budget. First one, the refuse fund, we're in the third year now of the new refuse contract that initially increased the refuse collection rates close to $1 million. So we've had a 5-year schedule. We're in the third year of a 5-year schedule that kind of balanced those increases out, tax increases with fund balance allocations, and at the end of the 5 years, hopefully that'll level off. I know the end of the 5 years also matches the end of the refuse contract and we'll be out to bid again. Northern Sewer District, that is actually the sewer district that's just come online up at Chappaqua Crossing with the retail and the residential there. We did need to add this fund in this district for operating and maintenance costs related to that district. The Northern Fire Protection District, this was the second of 2 bond issuances by Mount Kisco to fund their firehouse renovations. Those increased debt service payments will hit us in 2024. The Enhanced Ambulance District, we talked during the budget process, and we did approve adding an additional fly car for the area serviced by WEMS. And just a reminder that we had found out later in the game, we are adding the LoSAP program for Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance Corps. The actual expense for that doesn't begin until 2025, so that's not included in this budget. And a big driver in the general fund were health insurance this year that are going to approach 10%, unfortunately, the increases. While we've had fantastic success with the MEPCO program, and I will point out NISHIP had a 9% increase, MEPCO is a 10% increase, but when you look over the last, I looked today, it was the last 7 or 8 years, our rates are significantly less than NISHIP overall, so unfortunately the rate of increase was a little more this year, but the total premium that the town pays is significantly less than if we were with the state program. Okay, a chart going back about 10 years showing the blue line is the total tax levy for the town, and the pink line is the rate of increase, the percentage increase year over year, and you see it's 1.86%. That's kind of varied over the years. Last year, we had to use a little bit more of that, but we did have a little bit more to use too. Okay, total budget summary, I won't go through all of this, but I'll just point out all the way on the left, the appropriation, 48,153,000, that's the total amount of the budget. All the way to the right is the amount of that budget that is raised, that is funded through property taxes, that's 24 million. Then you've got revenue and fund balance that was allocated, those are two columns in the middle. This chart just is breaking down the total budget of 48 million. The general and highway fund account for 65%, the vast majority of the budget. Water district is the next highest, and then probably the refuse district from there. Okay, just cover some of the key revenue sources. In the general fund, county sales tax, we've increased that actually by 150,000 over a prior year. I'll show a chart, I think in the next slide that shows that historically. But we are comfortable increasing that based on the historical actual revenue that we've received over the last few years. State aid mortgage tax, that was significantly higher over the last couple of years, especially coming off COVID and the kind of the real estate boom that we had in town. We've seen that die off. We will reach our numbers in 2023 and we'll exceed those numbers. It looks to be by about maybe 200,000, so I was pretty comfortable leaving that number unchanged for next year at 950. We raised commuter parking fees, and that was a result of the increase in the fees that we raised this year. So we've increased that budget by $75,000. Building permits, we bumped that up about $25,000 for 2024. We still have, I think, about 30-something building permits still to issue up at Chappaqua Crossing for the residential. And we've still been doing pretty good business in the development department over the last couple of years. The concession income, we've increased that slightly. That is rent or franchise fees that we receive. It's rent from the train station parking lot. It's the train station Bobos is what I'm trying to say. The cell tower over in Millwood, as well as the franchise fees that we receive from Altice and from Verizon. Summer camps, last year was the best year probably in the last 5 or 6 years that we've had for summer camp. Obviously, we had COVID in the middle of that, but in 13 years of doing budget, we've kind of noticed when the economy kind of tails off, we see summer camp revenues increase in town, and we think maybe that people are keeping their kids local as opposed to sending them to sleepaway camp. And last year maybe bears that out a little bit, so we've raised that a little bit for 2024. In the highway state aid from CHIPS and other sources from New York State, we've increased that $60,000. They've added another program. They've got the CHIPS program, the Extreme Winter Recovery, Pave New York, and I think Pave Our Potholes, I think was the other one. So overall, we've been able to increase that $60,000. In the water fund, general water sales, we've left that amount unchanged. That's kind of a moving target. We don't ever really know. It's very dependent on the weather conditions. In a dry summer, we sell a lot of water. In a wet summer, we don't. We've kind of left that number steady over the last 2 years. The sales to Pleasantville changes just slightly. The sales to Pleasantville, that figure is actually a function of some of the expenses that are built into what we charge Pleasantville, the fixed and variable expenses. So just based on the budget itself, that is increased by $15,000. In the refuse fund, compost and mulch sales and yard waste, a total of $5,000 increase between the two of those. We're getting close to having to replace the horizontal grinder. We talked about that during the budget process. That will probably be, I would imagine, 24 or 25 a capital expense out of refuse. We did talk that once we replace that, we think kind of the reduction in the repair costs of the horizontal grinder will be offset by the debt service for that. So it hopefully it's gonna be a net zero for the refuse fund. Just showing some of the big revenue drivers for the town, historical trends dating back to 2017. You see that top line, that's the sales tax revenue. Between 20 and 21, that was a jump when Westchester County increased the local sales tax by 1%. You see the difference there. 2019 and 2020, that's when that happened. We expected to see a bigger jump, and COVID kind of tamped that number down, but you see it came back in 21 and then 22. Based on the 23 numbers, we're probably not gonna reach what we had in 22. So we're trending just slightly down. Mortgage tax, you look at what happened after COVID in the 2020, 2021 and 2022. Again, that one's dropped in 23 and the budget for next year reflects a similar number. Building permits has been strong, we project that to continue to be strong. Parking permits, we had a significant dip in 2020 due to COVID. Recovered a little bit, but that's still only about 50% of the pre-COVID numbers. We're taking a hit on that number in 2023. If the board remembers, we've decided to move the renewal from December to the following June, which is where it used to be. So we're gonna end up taking a hit on the revenue in 2023 because of that. And the bottom line showing summer camps, again, COVID was the big 2020, we took a big hit there. But if you look at 23, that was the largest of any of the years on this chart, so we're hoping for strong results in 24 as well. Breakdown of all our revenue sources shows about 50% comes from real property taxes. Sales tax accounts for about 9% of it, water sales 17%, and various other uses. Flipping to the other side of the ledger, some of the key expenditures. First, the expenditures that are affecting multiple funds. Employee benefits, we're seeing a pretty big increase this year. I just talked about health insurance and what we see, and I'm actually on the board of directors at MEBCO, so I see a lot of the internal stuff, and what ended up happening, we were expecting COVID hit in 2020. We were kind of through the majority of it in 21. So in 2020, we had a lot of all the basically elective procedures, everything was canceled. A lot of people weren't going to the doctor. We thought we'd see that again in 21. We didn't, so we had really great numbers, and then at the end of 2022, we got hit with a huge increase, and some of those bills trickled into 2023. So as a result of those numbers, the health insurance is increasing significantly for next year. State retirement as well is going to increase by about 220,000. That's a function of the investments, and the stock market's not doing fantastic right now, so unfortunately the returns on those investments are affecting what the town has to pay. The bright spot is workers' comp. That remains unchanged from the prior year. If the board remembers, we locked in with PERMA for 3 years. I think the most it could increase was 3%, but Jill and I just had a claims meeting about a month ago, and the claims are really looking fantastic again. So Lisa will probably remember when she first came in, our workers' comp renewal was close to $1 million. And then through a lot of hard work from our department heads, we've been able to reduce workers' comp claims, and our premiums now reflect that. Debt payments, those are down about $400,000. That's projected. It was anticipated. That's due to the debt schedule, which I'll show later on in the slideshow. The general fund legal expenses remain unchanged at about $570,000. IT costs went up slightly. In the highway fund, road paving and permanent improvements, we increased that by $60,000. That reflects the increase in the CHIPS funding that we had. Lisa again will remember where that number was when she came into office 10 years ago. I think we had 1 year we actually didn't pave any roads prior to Lisa coming in. That hasn't happened since, so we went from 0 to up over 1.4 million. Salt and snow removal overtime, those two numbers have remained unchanged. Obviously, those are very difficult to predict, but over about a 10-year period, those numbers are pretty solid. Those are about the averages that we've seen over that period. In brush and tree work, we've increased that by 10,000. Unfortunately, due to the volume and severity of the storms that the town has had over the last few years, we've slowly and steadily increased that number. In the water fund, the cost of raw water, looking at about $140,000 increase. This is based on the rates that have increased sharply from the New York City Water Board. Water treatment plant operations, that increase is just due to the contractual obligations we have with Veolia. Pretty big increase in the electricity, you see about $264,000. That's due to the significantly increased rates. And the good news is we dropped the standby generator service by $290,000. I think we're expecting delivery of the new generator in late January, and hopefully we'll get that online as soon as possible.
So excited.
Can stop paying about $30,000 a month to rent a generator. And in the refuse fund, the cost of refuse collection, 1.9 million, that increases $76,000. That was a cost of living increase built into the contract. And the transfer site charges remain unchanged at just short of $700,000. Okay, a breakdown of all the expenditure categories. Contractual costs account for about 40%, personnel about 31%, and employee benefits about 20%. This is taking an average resident's tax bill, about $2,761. This is just a general and highway fund, and shows how it's broken out. I always like pointing this out because I think it's a bargain. Snow removal is about $52.80 of your tax bill goes for snow removal, and that keeps those guys working 24 hours sometimes when there's snow out there. So I think they do a great job. Two of the largest pieces of the pie are police protection, that's $714 a year, and employee benefits for staff is $647 a year. Okay, this chart just shows the refuse collection and disposal costs over the last looks like 14 years. The red line and the dots is the actual rate, the tax rate for that. So you see that was a little bit higher. It went down in 2015. That was when we went to from 2 times to 1 time a week collection. And then you see it increase sharply in 22, 3, and 4 with the increase in the refuse contract. Okay, I just include this showing the different fire districts that any of the residents may be part of. You're part of one of the three. It's either the Newcastle Fire District, Millwood Fire District. Both of those are independent of the town. We include them in the budget just for informational purposes, but they approve their own budgets. The town collects the money and remits it to them each May. And then part of the town is in the Northern Fire Protection District. And that is actual part of the town's budget. That's where we pay the town of Mount Kisco for fire protection. These are the average costs for fire protection per parcel. This is based on the numbers for Millwood, which is in the dark blue, and Newcastle, which is in the green, the top and the bottom. Those were taken from their approved budgets that I received this year. And the pink is the Northern Fire Protection. You see a sharp increase there of close to $100, and again, that was based on the increased debt service from the town of Mount Kisco that they have unfortunately passed along. Okay, just showing the tax rate information comparison versus 2023. See the town's total assessed value went up about $3 million over last year. I have, over the last few years, I just take an average assessed value of $170,000. It's close to what the town's average is, but I've left that number steady for an apples to apples comparison year over year. The market value of your house changes, but if you're in your house, you wanna see the comparison year over year, so based on the equalization rate, you see significant increase in the market value year over year for the same house. The tax rate's actually gone down in the general and highway fund by about 0.04%. And just showing again the tax cap and the growth factor of almost nothing. And I will point out that this total increase exempting the fire districts breaks out to about $31.39 per parcel. It's about $1 decrease for the general and highway fund and about $32.40 for special districts. So the total increase per parcel, per average parcel, is about $31.39. Just to illustrate the total tax bill and the proportion of it that is the town of Newcastle. You see at the bottom the purple, Chappaqua Central School District and Library. The pink is Westchester County. The dark pink are the fire districts, and the green is the town of Newcastle and Newcastle Special Districts. And just represented a different way is the share of a $100 bill. About $75 is your school taxes, school and library. The town of Newcastle and special districts is about $13. Westchester County close to $10, and your fire protection a little under $3.
I like that graphic.
I stole that from somebody a couple years ago. I wasn't that creative to.
I remember seeing that last time.
He's honest and consistent.
This is the current debt schedule right now. You see there's a pretty big drop off between 24 and 25. If the town does have to borrow, like to do that in 24, and the debt service would begin in 25. That will help offset it year over year. We wouldn't see as much of an impact if we do that. As of right now, not certain what we're gonna borrow for. I will be coming to the board probably in about 2 weeks and ask them for some appropriations of fund balance to close out some capital projects that we had. If you remember, I think it was over the summer, maybe late spring, after the audit after the auditors presented the financials, and I laid out a plan of how rather than borrowing, we could take some of the fund balance and close these capital projects. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll have that information to the board. And the last two charts are our fund balance. You see the big jump from 22, where I showed 23 projected. That is just based on what was allocated in the 23 budget. And my projected chart used to go out further, but harder to make any projections until I have a better idea of what the town board wants to do as far as allocating that. So town has a pretty healthy fund balance at this time. So that is my presentation. If anybody has any questions?
I have one question. So you hear a lot about the way that interest rates and loans for consumers and businesses have increased drastically. Is the same true for municipalities, and how much more expensive is it to do debt service?
So it has increased, yes, not to the extent that home mortgage loans. So I haven't looked lately. I think they're in the high 7s, low 8s, somewhere in there.
Actually come down.
I think municipal rates are in the 4s. For any, and we have a AAA rating, so were we to go out and borrow, we would have the best of the interest rates, but they're much less than traditional home mortgages are, yeah.
And how much has it increased for municipalities?
Oh, it was in the 2s before. I think we may have even had sub 2. It's hard because sometimes when you borrow and you see, if we borrow while you're on the board, you'll see the amortization schedule over 30 years, and they'll take an average of the interest rate increase. Some years you might pay 1.5, the next year you might pay 2.25, just over a 30-year period.
Great, any other questions for Rob? Okay, so we will open it up to the public. Any questions from the large audience here? Okay, does anyone online have any questions? All right, so I'm sorry, Rob.
It was a very
But
good
it's
summary.
a testament to the great job that you do, and everyone knows
Jill
you
tells me
don't
that.
need to be questioned.
I don't
I tell them if there was concern, the place would be
No.
packed.
Exactly, it's very true.
I don't mind flying under the radar.
It's very
I
true.
will remember when the Boy Scouts came that year and Rob apologized to them for having to sit through my
I
presentation.
remember that.
He just had a sense of humor, that's all.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I thought that
for
was
all
very
you
well
do.
done. Could you send us a copy of that,
Sure,
the
absolutely.
presentation?
I actually just sent you an email to do that, so
Sure.
thank you. All right, so if I could have a motion from the board, I guess to close the public hearing, leave it open for written comments until noon on Friday,
So
or
moved.
next, this
We're
Friday?
actually gonna vote on it, let's see, let's hold it open until, you wanna do it Tuesday the 5th?
And we're voting on it the 12th?
On the 12th, yeah.
That's fine,
Okay.
So
we knew, but I'd say noon on the fifth.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so next I'd like the board to open a local law, public hearing on a local law to amend chapter 65 regarding filming. Can I have a motion to open that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Lino, you wanna talk us through that?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is a local law amending chapter 65 filming law in the town of Newcastle. What we did, we actually brought this provision of the code kind of up to date, 21st century, to really tackle streaming, which wasn't included in your code. We also modernized it because some of the definitions that for example were in the code talked about major picture studios. Today it's kind of just, you have Netflix, you have a bunch of streaming services that we included a definition. We also got rid of some definitions about commercial production because the amount that was in there, 3 million, that's probably a podcast these days, so we got rid of that definition. We also upped the fines in terms of violating this particular local law. Used to be 1,000 per day, now it's 5,000. The other thing that we did was that we had a provision here that said that if there's a violation, we could put a lien on property for those who are violating it. And the last thing that we did was we took out one of the exceptions from requiring a filming permit for private property, and this is what was kind of like arbitrary, not just vague in the code about having activities conducted solely on private property, whether commercial, non-commercial, educational purposes, where the activities will not result in temporary adverse impacts. But there really wasn't any guide in the code as to that, so we got rid of that provision as well. So that's really much the update in terms of the provisions of the local law and the amendment that we're proposing.
All right, I know we've discussed this a number of times. Does anyone have any questions? All right, we'll now open it up to the public. Is there anyone here who has any comments or questions? Right, is there anyone online?
No hands are raised.
Okay, you guys are tied. So I would propose then a motion from the town board closing the public hearing, leaving it open for written comments until noon on December 5th.
You know what, let's do it Friday, because that way we can vote on this on the 5th.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, and then what I'll do, because this is in draft format in red line, so what I'll have prepared for the Tuesday meeting, assuming no changes, this will be clean version, so that's what we'll vote on, and that's assuming if it's voted on, that's what will get submitted to the Secretary of State for filing.
Okay, so why don't we then have a motion to leave it open for public comments to 5 p.m. this Friday?
Okay, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we are going to move to our resolutions.
I move to adopt the items 1 through 10 as listed on the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to retroactively approve the payment of claims in the amount of $865,903.76 listed on the summary AP check register and detail voucher detail reports dated November 17th, 2023. Checks were printed and distributed to each claimant listed on Friday, November 17th, 2023.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the payout of vacation days for non-union staff for the following individuals for a total payout amount of $16,209.39.
I second.
Do I need to read them?
You don't have to.
As listed in the
As listed in the-
resolution.
That's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we going to table item 3? We didn't discuss it. I thought we had
Yeah, I think it's a smart, we
sent something about that.
So we discussed it a few weeks ago and we did say if anyone else applied to this, I mean, I'm the liaison to the Westchester County Airport Advisory Board and the Airport Committee. I can tell you he's done a fabulous job. We don't have anyone else interested in this.
I think, first of all, do we still have, on the website, the Airport Advisory Board ended in 22. What's the status of our local, I'm not talking about
So we've had
Westchester.
2 applicants?
Yeah, 4 applicants.
Oh, 4 now, okay.
Right.
So we'll look at them, that's not something we typically, as a board, we don't interview everybody. But we'll have the current chair, if he wants to remain, do that, otherwise I'll look at them as liaisons, just like we just did with the PAB.
So I'm not, I mean, listen, if you wanna call us, you can, but I think this, even if you did put it out in the past couple of weeks, the past month and change has been month and a half has been probably some of the most traumatic for people. I don't know how much people are paying attention to the Airport Advisory Board. So that being said, not having discussed it, I've had some issues in the past which I've raised. at the time of the initial appointment.
With him in person or with
Wait,
his,
can I just,
with
excuse
his,
me, can I just say
So I
something,
think,
please?
yeah.
Can we not do this?
can we,
I think
we
this
can
is
discuss
not-
this in executive
Right, that's
session,
why I
but.
asked,
think this
I
is
asked to
not
get
a-
an executive session.
Oh, I didn't hear you
Okay.
say that,
Executive
okay.
session item.
So let's, can we do that now?
You can't, you didn't just make a motion to go in to discuss.
So why don't we finish all the other resolutions first and then we'll go into a quick executive
Well,
session
why
for
don't we
that.
just put it on for next week?
Are we voting that? We can put it on for next week, but we
Yeah,
still
we
wanna
can
have an
do that.
executive
Yes, correct.
session
I just
after
think
we
it's
do
more
the
appropriate
resolutions.
to, I don't like to talk about
Okay.
individuals.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna.
Skip that one, so do number 4.
I move to authorize the hiring of Andrew Brown to the position of seasonal laborer 0425-05 within the Department of Public Works Highway Unit at the hourly rate of $16 per hour effective December 18th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the change in title for Joshua Munoz from seasonal laborer 0425-05 to part-time availability PTA recreation attendant 0275-05 within the Recreation and Parks Department at the hourly rate of $30 per hour effective January 2nd, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the hiring of John Johan Mishto for the position of recreation attendant 0275-05 to assist with the basketball program within the Recreation and Parks Department at the hourly rate of $16 per hour effective December 4th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. There is a little addition that I don't have.
I saw
It's been
Lauren
emailed.
emailed it.
Oh, do you want me to read it? I have it.
Sure.
To award the bid for the Millwood Park Tennis Courts Repair and Resurfacing Project to Sport Tech Acrylics Corp. with the amount of $75,753, pardon me, I apologize, I did say it right, $753, which includes the base bid of $53,718 plus the add alternatives items 1 through 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That includes a backboard for people to be able to.
That's great.
That's great.
Oh, they wanted that.
I know they did want that, so that's good.
Is there another,
Okay.
wasn't there an-
Any other resolutions?
Oh, okay, that's just.
Alright, so can I have a motion to adjourn the town board meeting and go into executive session for personnel?
The only
I
thing,
thought we
I
were
would
doing
adjourn
that
it,
Next week.
Next week.
yeah, if you're gonna go in executive session, go in executive session, then come out of it and then adjourn.
So why don't we just adjourn it for next week?
You can do that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
We could just
so can I have a
adjourn the
motion to adjourn the town board meeting?
Motion to adjourn the town board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.